you getting yourself ready for our show?
Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef back here. Another Jigs and Bigs. Oh my God! I hope you guys are as excited as I am. If I'm being totally honest right now, I have gone at length telling you guys how I am not really into competitive fishing and all that jazz. But wow, we got something going on this week's show that has me reconsidering some things. This week in the Beef Seed, guys, we got Drew Gregory. Drew Gregory is launching something called the Kayak Adventure Series, and I got to tell you guys, this is right up my alley. Check out this interview. It's absolutely fantastic. We got who the fuck is Joe Brown this week? He is out doing some birthday celebrations with Ms. Farmer Brown. And that means it's old school style. Sean the Fisherman and myself, we got some good stuff for you guys. We got some knowledge you want to know in Just the Tip today. How do you handle toothy critters? What's the proper way? Sean the Fisherman got a little bit mangled, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can cover your ass with that. We've also got in our FTG segment something that's going to blow your mind. Some local, straight up bullshit. If I'm being totally honest with you, that's coming up in FTG. I got a whole review of the camping trip with Queen Beef. How it all went down. That's all coming up right after this, guys. Don't go too far. Grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee or maybe a shot and a beer if it's that kind of night. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far. More Jigs and Bigs coming up after that.
Let's talk about buttered sausage. Let's talk about buttered sausage, what it's doing, where it's been, where it's going.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Guys, I say good morning to you because we are recording this post another braces appointment for my youngest daughter. So I just shelled out hundreds of dollars. And I'm feeling good. And I got my Starbucks this morning. So I'm feeling a little punchy right now. We got Chrissy Fishing, one of our jig heads, joining in, saying good morning, guys. Chrissy, how are you? Sean, how are you, my friend?
I am doing much better.
Good.
With my hiatus last week, I figured we'd start the show. We actually had some shenanigans to start the show with, and I said, well, I'd like to talk about what happened last week, why I wasn't on the show. And I didn't, we decided to push the shenanigans to a little further down the road. Mm-hmm. Maybe an Easter egg or something you guys might want to check out. But last Friday night, my wife and I had a chance to go out with Nelson and his wife, go to dinner, and we've been kind of plotting and planning this, and we all have kids that all have sports, and it just hasn't happened for like 2 years. And we had a chance to go out, and we had a nice dinner. My kids had their Halloween dance at the high school, so we dropped them off, went up to have dinner with Nelson and his wife, had a great dinner, fantastic time. It was a beautiful night out, extremely unseasonably warm for Western Massachusetts.
Where did you guys go?
We went to Caminito Steakhouse up in Northampton.
Oh, beautiful.
So I didn't know they were under new management.
Yeah.
My sister used to work there, and the old manager, I met a few times, great guy. So apparently he sold the restaurant. And that's been my like go-to for steaks. They were a Brazilian steakhouse, and they seem to have changed a few things up. And
you do enjoy a good Brazilian.
Yeah, it was, don't we all? The food was good, but not as the quality as it was. And
things have changed,
Yeah, it happened. So we had a blast, though, either way. And then here's why I didn't make the show. On the way home, unfortunately, my wife and I don't want to get too into the details because obviously this family is still grieving. We witnessed a fatal accident, and it was in a secluded enough part of the road that I got out of the car. I was the first person on scene. As my wife called 911, I went running to see if I could provide any sort of assistance, and the driver was unresponsive when I got there, and I'm not going to get again into the details, but it was horrific. So I did what I could on scene once the first responders arrived.
Yep.
But this was way out of my experience, way out of my depth. When I got to that scene, I did what I could by calling the proper authorities, trying to get a response from the driver, which didn't happen. And I did what I could, but there was nothing. There was nothing more. I suspect, and we'll never know this, but I suspect that at the moment of impact, the driver passed.
Yeah,
and everything after that, which was completely horrific, was too late. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I actually was going to go out to Cape Cod on Saturday. That Friday night, obviously I had to make phone calls with this is the nice thing about the kids going to a smaller high school. I was, with me coaching there, I called up the principal, who basically is my boss for a good part of the year. And I said, can you stick around there? This happened. We're waiting to give statements, et cetera. And, they were able to, the principal was able to hang around for a little bit. And then another parent came and was waiting. And it's one of the parents that I work with for driving around for soccer. So they're excellent. And then, we had to go through all that. And by the time I got home, I was like, I didn't really sleep too much, obviously, with everything that had happened. And the next day I was supposed to go fishing, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to Cape Cod. I was going to go out and fish somewhere warm. So I kind of blew Saturday off until that night. Nelson called me up and said, hey man, you feeling all right? I said, yeah. He said, well, you want to go fishing for a couple hours? I said, yeah, let's just keep it local and really topical, just to get out and get moving. And it was sunny out, so that kind of helped. And we went out to the actual Congamon, which, it's good to go to Congamon every now and again to get a reminder of
why to avoid it.
Yeah, how bad Wreck Lakes can be. And we caught, we were drop shot in 25 feet of water for bluegills for most of the night. He got a decent bass. I got a decent bass. We just kind of called it. And then Sunday morning when I woke up, now there was a lot of questions about this accident that I didn't have answers to. And I was actually kind of reaching out to a couple of contacts in law enforcement to see if they had come across anything, and hadn't gotten anything back. And then Sunday morning, Nelson gave me a buzz, and it turns out that his daughters had gone to high school with the driver of this car, and that was a half hour before we were supposed to record. And I remember I even got on the live stream, and I said, dude, I am not up for this right now. Because I was thinking about why was I so upset about this? Obviously from what I saw, but definitely. Have you ever read or heard anything about like folks who go through like either a great tragedy in their life or even, and this could be considered a tragedy, I guess, but like recovering addicts and alcoholics. Oh yeah. Tend to develop, I guess, a heightened sense of empathy for others. Yep. And I feel that way a lot. Like all I could think about was, dear God, this poor kid's parents. Oh yeah. That's all I could think about. And I mean, just being a parent, period. Like you're going to consider that shit for sure. And just to throw a little bit of other perspective on here, I was one of those phone calls that you made that Friday night. And I swear to God, I expected the way you were talking. I was like, yeah, they went out and he had some food trigger issues or something like that. There was a problem and he shit all over the tundra or something like that. I wish it was that phone call. Me too. Yeah, it was. And it was, I told you, because I was also, full disclosure, beef curtain removed. I was pretty well medicated, we'll say, when you called, and I was not expecting that. Immediately brought me right back down to reality, like, oh, fuck, really? This is crazy. I will say this, the driver of this car is from my old town, and I know that's a small town. It's a big small town, but everybody pretty much knows everybody. And I as things develop, I'm sure that there's going to be a connection of like that 6 degrees of separation type thing. Yeah, it's just terrible. But as a parent, you think about these things all the time. And it even affected me, like the way you described it, like that next day. I was going, what did I have planned that next day? I think I was going out fishing. And even when I was driving, I was like, holy shit, man, the amount of miles I've put on, like you really put a lot of perspective into stuff. And I think
Yeah, man, it was crazy. That's why as soon as we started, the live stream and you were like, yeah, I'm not up for this. I was like, do what you got to do, man. Totally understand. Totally understand.
Yeah. And that day I really, after I talked to you, I went back to bed. I was like, I'm not dealing with life right now. I went back to sleep for a couple hours and then I did have to get up because that was our first basketball practice for the youth team I'm coaching. So I had to get shit going there. And then my wife and I had a concert that night, which actually was a very positive experience. We got out. It was, if you guys are familiar with a rock band from started in the late 80s, went through the grunge era, came out the other end of it. I mean, they're a prog rock band, so that kind of happens. The prog rock audience has been built in since the 70s. But King's X, very interesting band. And they were playing in Holyoke. They were playing in your town, which was unusual. And we went out and had a really good time. I mean, my wife and I saw King's X. I mean, I've seen them like 7 or 8 times, but I think we saw them initially like 20 years ago in Omaha. One of the first couple times I saw them, it was phenomenal. And they're still, even though they're getting on and nobody's getting any younger. They're still up there kicking some ass every night and getting out there. And we had a great time, but Sunday morning for recording was not the mental place for me to be talking about anything. And
no, that makes
I was
sense.
I was thinking about this too, when we start right before we started recording today, like, I know there's been a couple things where that have affected my mental health as we've done this show.
Sure.
And I just want to assure everybody, this is not shtick. Like,
no.
I'm not asking for some of the things that have happened over the course of this show. Like, go back and listen to if you haven't listened to the episodes, there's a couple here or there. We had over the past 2 years where I've, I kind of lost my mind this summer a little bit and took a break and came back, and I feel much better about things, especially fishing. Especially towards next year. Personally, I have a lot of good stuff, a lot of positive stuff planned. And I'm trying to stay positive. And I think I'm doing it 99% of the time. But then something like this happens, and it's just, I'm not a first responder. I'm not. Like, no matter how much military training we have, even after talking to a couple of first responders that I fished with and letting them know what happened, they're like, everyone, the first time they see something like this, goes through the same thing that you do. He goes, but the people that are first responders eventually learn to cope with the situation. Yeah. And I'm not going to say go into automatic, but their training takes over.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't had any sort of, training like that, really trauma training, since probably in 20 years.
Yep.
The military does some stuff, that I've had experience with.
Oh,
but
sure.
Not like that.
Yeah, that's significant. That is very significant. And, it's like, even like working in the news media as long as I did, dude, I've seen some horrific video, but it's a different element because it's already happened. You know what I mean? Like, it's already happened. It's not present tense. It's footage, and it's just, it's wild. It's freaking nuts.
And only 2 of your senses are involved in that. I mean,
absolutely. It is a different thing. Yeah. You put yourself in that moment as things are happening, with just add that little drop of chaos as well. Dude, it's nobody could handle this unless they're in that first responder sort of. And I think that it takes a certain kind of person to be a first responder, and a lot of respect to those that do it. I mean, we're surrounded in the fishing community by first responders. A lot of our jig heads are first responders as well. And it takes a certain kind of somebody to be able to just like, holy shit. Like my sister works in an ER. Like, to disconnect and just like handle the procedure, like not for me, and not for most people, but
it's tough, man. So that was why, again, I just want to let everybody know I'm doing fine. Again, I talk about things to get through them. I talk with people. Getting someone's opinion and hearing about it means a lot to me, and it helps me get through these things, and talking about it on air. I'm sure there's some of you guys that are listening to this right now that are like, especially the first responders.
Yep.
From what I've been hearing, you guys went through it too. So that's what I do. That's my method of coping, talking about it, and I don't hold shit in.
Yeah.
Those of you guys who have fished with me know that I'm more brutally honest than not. From there, let's take a step forward. Again, this was all a tragedy, and I can't express enough condolences for the family of the driver in this car.
Now, I'm not sure if that GoFundMe is still active and up, but I'm going to check. And if it is, we're going to put a link in the description of the podcast. So if you guys want to reach out, if you know the accident we're talking about, this kind of, or just you want to do what you can to help this family kind of cover final expenses, this could help.
I do believe a couple of things. Mm-hmm. No, it is still open, which is good.
Yep.
And the funeral was Saturday, I believe.
Yep.
But either way, I sent you the GoFundMe link, Bobby. If you want to post that up,
I'll throw it in the description if you guys want. You know where all those links for our partners and everything. We'll put it right up there.
Yep. So if you can, this was a horrific accident, and a young person left this world far too early. If you guys want to donate, go for it. This was awful. Any time of year. To anyone, but especially a young person right before the holidays, I can't imagine.
Oh yeah,
this is a nightmare for the family involved. So, moving forward, this week I had actually, you know what? Take a step back. The week prior, we had talked a lot about my schedule and, I had planned on getting out on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with the Cape Cod trip being Saturday. I made none of those except for the 2 hours Nelson and I spent on Lake Congamon. And it was just amazing the way the soccer schedule, we've had a very wet fall in New England.
Yeah.
And a lot of athletic directors for high schools have played on their fields through this, which is trash the fields. But if they're soccer only, or if you're playing at a different location, maybe not, maybe your high school didn't have a field and you're playing at a local middle school or a park, which happens in our division with the smaller schools. Things kind of rolled. So there were a lot of makeup games, and the tournament schedules got set very late. Now, here's where the funny thing is. I want to go off on a tangent here. You guys are going to laugh at this. Everyone who's outside of the country is going to have a fit of laughter over this.
Yeah.
Massachusetts a few years ago did something awesome, which I really feel it's awesome. I'm completely positive about it. When we were all growing up, and time immemorial in Massachusetts, when you played high school, any sport, there was, I think, 3 divisions of high school based on the size. And then there were 4 regions. So you had Western Mass, Central Mass, I believe the Boston Metro, and then the Southeast side, which is Cape Cod and everything leading down to it south of Boston. What would happen is, within those 3 divisions of school size, everyone was treated as a different league. So we'll say 3 leagues, 4 separate or 4 regions. You would win your region. All right. So let's say boys basketball. There would be a Western Mass winner in D1, D2, and D3. That Western Mass tournament for each of those divisions was 16 teams. Okay. The winner of each would go on and play the winner of either the Central, the Boston, or the Southeast region, like a Final Four. They'd play it at the Worcester Centrum. It was easy enough, but you won your region, and then you played schools outside of your region in the same division. Which that was fine. And it was a big feather in your cap to win Western Massachusetts years ago. And it was awesome. So I don't know why. I have my suspicions. I'm not going to air them on here. I always tend to lean at Boston bias with the way the state is run, but
you wouldn't be wrong.
The state exactly. The state reorganized things and made 5 divisions throughout the whole state based on school size or school type. So there's 5 divisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for every sport, and they do basically I'm using this a formula like an RPI. For those of you guys who know college basketball, college football. Well, college basketball, really. The RPI is an important thing that basically measures strength of schedule, how your opponents did. And then they have it's a differential with, points scored and points let up. So what the state does is, let's again take boys basketball. We look at Division 5, which is, or Division 1, 2, whatever. They take the top 32 ranked teams based on that RPI and then add on any teams that are over 500. So you could have a 54, 53 team tournament, and then the first round whittles that number down to 32. And then that's when the tournament starts. So round 1 is once you get to 32. The preliminary round is the one that whittles whatever number down to 32. Okay. What which is great because you're using that RPI number and then you're actually looking at the record and saying, well, this team's over 500, even though they have a lower RPI number because they're in a worse conference than this other team. We can't really tell the difference. Let's put them both in and let them play it out.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Play it out. Well, this year in soccer, or after that all happened, I'm gonna stay in the past here for a second. Sorry, I was jumping forward. After that all happened, Western Mass, the organizations that run high school sports said, well, we really like our Western Mass tournament. We'd like to bring that back because, sometimes Western Mass wouldn't put out a great team. They'd win the Western Mass. You get blown out by some prep school in Boston or some prep school in Worcester or something. And that happens. So they reinstituted the Western Mass tournament. It's a smaller number of teams, 4 divisions, and it's only the top 8. So if you made the Western Mass tournament, you've done something special.
You're a good, yeah.
You've really done something special. Well, the classification system I am very unclear on because the division with my kids' high school in it somehow had 13 teams throughout all Western Mass, which is fine. Smaller number of teams. 8 made the tournament. But they went straight off the RPI and didn't look at records. So 4 teams under 500 made the 8-team tournament. The 5 that were left out of the 13, 2 of them were over 500, and the remaining 3 had more wins than the last 2 teams that got in.
Yep.
So you saw a team that was 0-15 and 1-14, and the one team that had the team that had the 1 win beat the 0-15 team. But because those 2 teams were in a stronger quote unquote conference, they made it in over a team that was 5-3 and another one that was 9-6.
No shit.
One, unfortunately, my kids' team is in a rebuilding year. They went winless this year. They were beat by that one other, or they were beat by the team with 1 win. Both of those teams made it in, and our coaches were apologetic. Again, the formula's there as long as you use it with the records.
Yes,
and it just didn't.
somebody dropped the ball. Pun intended.
Yeah, it should have been over 500 and then that rating. And it's just whatever. But yeah, our coaches had to apologize to teams because it sucked. So that
sounds like you guys were in the throes of all this, and it was in the middle. Somebody realized it and went,
somebody west of Worcester, one of our people did that, and it was a lot. So anyways, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Not criticizing it. I think there's a better way.
It's humorous. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that kind of fucked up my week last week. It just rolled everything up. Just Thursday and Friday just died on the vine. I was supposed to get out fishing and just one thing happened after the other. And I just kept having to run around town and do this and do that. Side note, we are on track, Bobby. We've got 23 days as of the recording of this show. 23 days. There is a possibility I could get another 5,000 miles on my truck. I might finish with 3 years of this truck and 100,000 miles.
God, imagine that.
Do some driving, folks.
Yeah.
Do some driving.
Well, and it's like you were talking about how like your schedule got all jacked up. That week I had a similar situation where I had, one kid had a half day, so I had to go and pick them up, or then there was an appointment, and my oldest daughter was getting she had to go and she had a doctor's appointment, and she didn't want to drive to it because her brakes had been acting up and all this other stuff. So my fishing plans like a week ago were getting all completely screwed up, and I think I called you and even said, "This is bullshit."
You're like, I know what this is like.
I know what this feels like. This sucks.
I'm like, this is every fucking week for me. And then thankfully last week I had a bunch of stuff to do again, and I just rolled through the week knowing I wasn't going to fish till Saturday.
Yep.
And then Saturday, what's today? Today's Monday. 2 days ago,
yep,
I did get out to Cape Cod. I went with Ryan Stager. Ryan was up for a road trip.
Nice.
And we went to a lake. It's actually a small chain of lakes out on the Cape that I fished before. One of the lakes is a deep kettle hole and has smallmouth, big smallmouth. And the other, the next lake to it is weedy and has largemouth and pickerel. When we got there, we fished the smallmouth first, and Ryan hooked into one, and it shook the hook. It was about a 2-pounder, he said. I said, fantastic. We moved over to the largemouth pond, and then I started lighting it up. So I ended up at the end of the day, I got one good largemouth. It was 18 inches.
Nice.
But the prize was another
That
state
pickerel.
pin pickerel.
That's
Yeah,
fucking
25 inches. I'm guessing because it was so fat. I'm guessing that thing was over 5.
Oh, yeah.
It was a big fat pickerel.
You're going to be able to take all those pickerel pins specifically and like on the walkway up to your front door, like nail them into the concrete so it'll look like a memorial of state ptickerel.
No, I'm gonna buy a badass like Freddie Mercury jacket.
Yep.
And just put him on like so I look like a Colombian general. You know what I mean?
The true.
But we did have a blast. What?
The true Prince of Pickerel.
Yes, I would be the Pickerel Prince of Western Massachusetts. We had an absolute blast.
Nice.
Ryan, and then on the way out, right in the same spot he lost a 2-pounder. There was a fly fisherman, and I was bullshitting with the fly fisherman, and I just hear something that sounds like someone dropping a cinder block in the water. And Ryan turns. He was about 50 yards away, and he goes, "That smallmouth was 5 pounds. It came straight up off the bottom. He never caught up to it and shook the hook out of the water right in front of him. He's just looking
like dead stare, like
he deflated. His soul was removed from his body.
Worst feeling ever. Worst feeling ever.
Yep, we ended the day with some max and got home late, and it was good. And I'm probably going to try and get out again this weekend. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm going to try. I have a lot of shit to do this week. Thankfully, for whatever reason, my kids have a couple of days off this week. One's an in-service day, and I don't know what the other one is. Yep. Oh, Veterans Day. Veterans Day for
Veterans
Friday.
Day on Friday.
Well, how the fuck could I forget that?
I know.
I don't know. Whatever.
It's a big day. Something else is happening on Veterans Day, too. We'll get to that.
Yep. And yeah, that's it. So I got out fishing once in the past 2 weeks. Obviously had a horrible experience that kind of threw me for a loop for a couple days. And we're almost in winter. I will say this, that the lake we were at has a herring run to it. And this year's herring fry or younglings, yearlings, whatever the fuck, yearlings, whatever you want to call them. They were massing up to head out to the ocean, and it was just a feast. I mean, all the fish in there were crushing them. They were in the reeds trying to get at them. It was awesome. So the herring run happens in the spring, and that's when the adults come up, and that is a smorg for the big fish. But on the way out, everything eats the little ones. This 3 to 4 inch herring, you saw them jumping. They look like, it looks like somebody's throwing, coins around because they're just so shiny and they're jumping out of the water when something's going after them. It's neat to see, but they were all massing up, hundreds and thousands of them together to go back down to the ocean and grow up. So that was my fishing this week.
Nice.
You had a trip, didn't you?
Dude, I had a lot that went on this week. So my week, I had started it with the final ditch effort in trying to cross a couple of these other species off on the October scavenger hunt tournament that's over on Fishing Chaos. And I said, you know what, man, I know where I'm at on the leaderboard. I'm not going to get too fired up on this. I'm just going to go somewhere local where I know that there's a couple of those species that I can lay into, and we'll see what happens. I'm just going to go and I'm going to fish. I'm going to have a good time. And I went, and we had like minimal wind that day. We had like very few clouds. I was not expecting a whole lot. I had water temps were up higher than I expected in this one pond. So I head over there and I launch and I'm doing my thing, and I get out there and I'm just, throwing around what's been working for the multi-species stuff, and I'm not getting bit. So I downsize a little bit and see what happens. And then I start lighting them up. I caught a yellow perch. Whoa. That's like 3 or 4 this month that I've caught for yellow perch, which is crazy because I don't come across them a whole lot. This is the first yellow perch I've ever caught from this pond, but again, does me no good. And it was a decent size too. It's probably about 10 inches, decent sized perch. I release this fish and I make my way around. I start catching some dink bass. I'm like, all right, we're going to go ahead. We're going to stick with it. Again, like the big ones that I was looking for, I was trying to cross off my list, were brown trout, which is ironic because I ran into the trout guys who I've talked about on the show before. And one of the dudes is like, he's like, oh, if you're fishing for trout, man, they are munching. I was like, all right, well, good. I'm looking to catch a brown. And he's like, oh, I haven't caught a brown here all year. Horseshit, you asshole. You were there when the truck showed up, stocked them back in fucking May. What are you talking about? So, yeah, I'm like, who the fuck, how drunk are you at fucking 9 a.m.? Seriously, man, get a hold of
Get a hold of your life there, Gary. What the fuck?
So I'm like, this is bullshit. So I'm doing my thing, and I got on a weird kind of bite. I was throwing a really downsized swim bait, 2-inch swim bait, little paddle tail on an eighth ounce jig head. Just kind of like letting it drop and then like reeling it back up, letting it drop again, and it was getting hammered. All of these bites were like perfectly placed right in the corner of the mouth. Every single bite, the perch, all the dink bass, everything else. Then I go up against this one rock wall that's near the dam with some riprap. And I go and I make a long cast parallel to this line of riprap. And I'm reeling this back, and I catch a decent sized largemouth. And I was like, oh, this is much better. And I'm obviously, it's so light, so tiny. I'm throwing this on a medium light, and it is a great fight. I'm having a blast with this. I get this fish in the net, and I'm like, all right, sweet, baby, we'll go ahead, we'll do this. And I measure this fish, and I'm like, maybe I can get some extra inches to break a tie. Nope, dead to nuts, 15 inches. I'm like, you have got to be shitting me. And then I'm looking inside the bass's gullet, and I can see a half-digested crawdad, like on its way down. Like I can see a crawfish going down its throat. And I'm like, you know what? This is a pretty good sized fish. I'm going to measure it. So I put it back in the net and grab my board and get ready. I go and grab the fish, and I realize that he had upchucked like 3 like little craws, tiny little craws. And I remember you happened to call me, Sean, and we had a conversation. You're like, I'm surprised they're even still out. I was like, me too. I'm like, but the water temps, I've got like 54,
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. So
yeah, I thought crawfish moved out under 60, but apparently not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're fucking digging them out. I don't know what they're doing. I didn't know bass could use the shovel. But they were chomping them. So I said, you know what? I have a little finesse jig from HH Custom Baits from my last Dark Horse box that profile-wise with the trailer, because I've got the matching PB&J trailer as well, it's the perfect size. Holy fuck balls. When people say match the hatch, I'll tell you, I was still lighting them up. The difference was these bites were so much like more violent and more like significant, and they just hit so much harder. Most of them, it was on the fall. One of them was after a couple of bounces on the bottom. That was really shallow. It was unfreaking believable how hard they were hitting this jig. So I fished for a little while longer. I think in total I probably caught about a dozen fish, 11 bass and that one perch. And I was like, you know what? Things are starting to slow down. I'm getting over near the ramp now. I'm like, I'm just going to call it. I'm like, it's Halloween. I gave it my best try this month, but I'm like, I placed where I placed. It is what it is. So I go and I head back up to the ramp, and I load up the boat and I take off, which is pretty cool. It was just awesome. I was blown away with, I love finesse fishing. I really do. Just average size and smaller fish are so much more fun to catch that way. They just are, I mean, the fight's amazing. It's just way more fun. So that was it for that. I was considering getting out again on Wednesday and then again on Thursday, but I had this big trip, this camping trip planned for this weekend. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to put all my eggs in that basket. All right. So let's go ahead. I'll talk about the planning for all this. Now, what was this? About 4 weeks ago, I had used an app to book a campsite. This app is called Hip Camp. I think I've mentioned it on the show before. Becca and I had used it to just find a spot to camp that was in between her traveling from Rhode Island to when she went and fished for salmon up in Syracuse. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and use this app and book this spot because I've been wanting to get my wife out camping with me. And I'd been waiting in the fall specifically to avoid any bugs, so I could just because I think that the more things I can eliminate from it being a negative experience or a inconvenient experience for her, the better I'll be. Well, I think I waited a little bit too long. Explain why. So all this entire week, so I booked this spot up in Dover, Vermont, from a property owner named Roy. Roy is awesome. I left a review on his, I think it's called Sunrise Farm. I left a review on there. It was absolutely fantastic. So Roy's got a good sized property, and he's got a handful of small man-made ponds on his property. And there's one, I think it's called Lotus Pond, where he's got one site right there. I booked a site right there. Now, I don't think there's any fish in that pond. I threw a line Sunday morning and got nothing. But it is just below a much larger pond up above us. So I did fish that pond. And I'll go through the trip separately, but I'll talk about the fish. I was actually on my way up to go grab our firewood, and I drove up to the farmhouse to go grab it. On the way back, I was just like, I mean, it's here. I got my rods right here. I'm gonna make a few casts. And I caught a little rainbow trout right at that pond. And the water was crystal clear, lots of rocks. Like, really, this is a man-made pond. Some care went into this. That's all I'm going to say. Like, somebody, I think, put this together to provide a decent habitat for fish. So yeah, I think I didn't have my board with me. I think this rainbow probably hit 11 inches. But again, like, that small 2-inch swim bait has become just such a universal presentation for all kinds of different species. And I usually will upsize a little bit if I'm catching too many bluegill. And I've got to keep it kind of on that same level, but worked out great. I was like, all right, cool. So, cross that one off my list. Awesome. I'm not going to force Holly to sit there and hang out while I'm fishing or anything like that. So I show up at the site. All right, let's back up even further. On Friday, we had a little bit of a meeting, you and I, Sean. We had met up over at Veterans Inc. with Christian and Catherine, and we talked about our upcoming event, the 200th episode celebration, the game dinner that's coming up. And I got to tell you, I had posted a reel on the Jigs and Bigs Instagram later that day talking about, like, my impressions with Veterans Inc. and everything else, and I was amazed. That meeting really opened my eyes to the impact that we stand to be a part of, in the veteran community, as far as being able to help a truly unbelievable organization. We are going to have Christian on to talk about Veterans Inc., specifically get into detail, all that stuff. But man, we got some really great stuff lined up for you guys. We're really hoping to do something pretty amazing with this event. They're psyched about it. We're psyched about it. But then when I left that meeting, I had some errands that I needed to run. I needed to pick up a couple of items that I wanted to have. Now, again, this camp trip was not only just me taking my wife out, and camping. This was also me testing out a bunch of new gear that I hadn't used before. It was testing out a brand new tent. This is it's a Coleman Skylodge 6. It's one of these tents. Have you ever seen these, Sean, where like they don't have poles that you assemble and then run through the fabric? They're sewn in, and they have like extending legs and like joints that will bend so that it's I think sometimes they're called a hub tent. It's a little bit different than that, but similar setup.
Almost like an umbrella.
Kind of like an umbrella, yeah. So I was psyched to try that out. I had these two cots. I set one of them up to make sure that Holly was going to be comfortable with it. The other one was still in the box. I had never even slept on these things, so I have no idea. So I'm like, all right, we'll give it a go. Now, what I had done was I had run a couple of errands. I wanted to get some tarps. I wanted to have a tarp on hand as an additional rain fly if I needed it. We didn't have any rain in the forecast.
Pay attention to that. No rain in the forecast.
And I wanted to have those a couple of tarps on hand, and so I stopped off at Harbor Freight. Tarps are super cheap over there. Picked up a like a moving blanket. Just something simple to throw on the floor of the tent, so that this way we weren't just walking around on the tent material. Kind of make it soft. If there were like any rocks or anything like that, it would kind of like take the edge off there. And I took off, and I needed to do some grocery shopping, and I had a little run-in at a local Cumberland Farms while I was out running my errands. Did I call you about this, Sean?
I don't think you did. You've been very popular lately. So I am on my way, and I'm like, all right. I could really use a soda, and I think I got to make a pit stop. You know what I mean? Check the plumbing at one of these various locations. So I go in, and I asked the person behind the counter. I was like, "Hey, do you
you guys have a restroom in here? He's like, yeah, right around here, right around the corner. I was like, great. So they have like the doorknobs on there that have the sign that says vacant or no vacancy or occupied, vacant or occupied. And it's a mechanism that's tied up to the lock. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I go in and I shut the door and I lock it. Now this is like a multi-person facility. There's a urinal and then there's a stall. My business needed to be in the stall, but I'm like, in my mind, I was like, okay, that's what this is for, to let people know there's somebody in here. Cool. I lock it. Great. I'm in there handling my business and I hear somebody come over and jiggle the door. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, and then I hear them outside in the hallway. He's like, yeah, man, it's locked. And he goes, oh, I don't know. I guess it shouldn't be locked. So these fucks come over and they're like trying to kick the door in. So I'm yelling at them. I'm like, hey, don't break the fucking door down. Give me 2 minutes. I will be there.
I'm in here taking a shit, goddammit.
And I finally walk out and I was all fired up. I'm like, nope, just no fucking male Karen bullshit needed. No Kyle or Kevin. Just get the fuck in your truck and go and do your groceries. So I go and I get all this shit. Now, again, like I'm planning for this trip and I want to make sure everything is perfect for Holly. So I'm curating the menu to the stuff that she wants me to make. She wanted Franks and beans. I was like, are you sure? Because I'll make like steaks if you want. She's like, nope. She's like, Franks and beans. She's like, it's camping food, whatever. She made a good call. It was really enjoyable. So I got all this stuff. I got items to make s'mores. She's like, oh yeah, we'll make s'mores by the fire. It'll be awesome. All the little odds and ends and things that I could potentially need. In fact, I got her some other stuff so I could keep it in the pantry box for other trips that we're going to take. That should be an indication right there. The fact that I'm talking about taking other trips with her, it went well. Good. So I grab a few items there. I had one other stop that I needed to make. There was something else that I needed, and I had to go to Tractor Supply for it.
It was a little buddy heater.
I was looking at the forecast, and I'm like, okay, it's going to get into the 30s. We're sleeping in this tent on cots. I plan to do this. I was going to take my summertime sleeping bag that I use in the truck all the time and drape it over, because it's a double wide. It's a 2-person sleeping bag. It fits right in the back of the truck. And I was going to drape it over my cot so I could sleep on top of that, and then put my new sleeping bag, which is a 30-degree Coleman sleeping bag, and I would just unzip it all the way and then put that on. This way I could get between the two and I'd be good to go. I slept in my base layer. I did okay. I did all right. It was a little bit chilly. Slept with a brand new pair of wool socks on, and it was a little bit chilly, but it wasn't horrible. Like, I was comfortable. The heater, I just kind of wanted to have on hand because I had a feeling that my beloved wife was underestimating the power of the blankets she chose to bring. And she also wanted we brought up Eleanor, and she's like, well, I'll have Eleanor. She'll keep me warm as well. Wrong. So, Sean, have you ever slept on a cot before in cold weather?
Yeah, I was in the military.
Yeah, no. I wasn't sure about cold weather or not.
Oh yeah. My first, I've slept on cots in cold weather before and on the ground, but the ground. I was at basic training in January, and January in Texas is not very nice.
It's not okay. So the thing is, when you're sleeping on a cot, like most cots generally have a very thin amount of fabric there. The better quality ones are canvas. Lots of times it's a canvas material, and that's what these are. And they insulate. They have an R value of 0. They don't insulate shit. And the thing is yes, you're not on the ground, so you're not dealing with the cold ground like robbing you of the heat that you're trying to insulate with. You just have this open air under you. So this is why I wanted to put my summer sleeping bag underneath me to at least have something. And then I made the decision, that I would basically sleep. Well, here's what happens with sleeping bags. When you're in a sleeping bag, the part that's under you that you're laying on compresses everything, eliminating the insulation, eliminating it completely. It's almost useless. Or if at the smallest it's going to drop it down a notch or two. It's not going to insulate the way that you think it would. So that's an issue. So that's why, folks will use like either an air mattress or some type of an insulated sleeping pad or something like that. Even a wool blanket will do, which is, I think, the route that I'm going to take. And she was cold. Like between her tossing and turning and the dog moving around, she had one like a fleece type blanket that she had put on top of the cot, and then had a wool blanket that she had over her, and she was freezing her ass off. So I ran this buddy heater more than I was comfortable with. Like I was like, all right, we'll put this on, because I had heard, propane heat is a wet heat. It'll contribute to a ton of condensation. The nice thing about this tent is the entire roof is 4 triangular shaped screen panels. So you have to put the rain fly on. You have to. Otherwise, if it rains, it's just coming right through. So with the rain fly on, you still have a good amount of ventilation there. So I actually felt pretty good about that. When we got up in the morning, because I let that heater run for a good chunk of time, and we had no condensation anywhere. It was pretty good. I did crack a window on each side just to allow more ventilation, but man, that thing cranks. So it's a 6-person tent, but it heats the whole thing up in an instant. The problem is it's a 6-person, it's a tent. As soon as you shut it off, immediately, as fast as that heat can be dissipated out, it's gone. So I had, we had, made dinner. Everything was great. Enjoying some adult beverages by the campfire. I got an abundance of firewood, so this way there was no running out, and I could start another fire in the morning to like keep the coffee hot, stuff like that. So now this is let me back up a little bit here. So the site's booked. I'm running around getting all this stuff done. As the weeks are getting closer, my wife's like, "Oh yeah, oh that's right, that's this week," and I'm like, "Hey, if you want me to cancel, I won't even mention it to anybody. We'll just cancel. Or I'll keep the site and I'll go utilize it." I'm like, "It's okay. I'm not putting any pressure on you." She's like, No. I want to go. The week before, 7 days, Sean, you know what this woman says to me?
I know what she said. Why don't you tell everybody else?
She goes, "I have a nail appointment Saturday at 2:00.
Saturday at 2:00 was the time we're allowed to check in. And with us losing daylight so early in the evening now, setting up camp meant I had to be there in plenty of time to at least have the daylight to set this tent up for the first time, to handle all the other setup, because I set up the camp toilet with that privacy tent, the kitchen. I had to set all of this stuff up, and I needed time to be able to do this. I didn't want to be doing this in the dark. As it was getting dark, I just wanted to have everything in place and be starting a fire. That did ultimately happen. But my lovely wife is always like,
"Taking 2 cars anywhere is stupid."
And I was like, "Motherfucker." So I told her, I was like, "Look," I go, "I know you don't want to cancel your nail appointment." I go, "If you want to go," I was like, "It's fine." I go, "It's too late for me to cancel the site. I'll just go and have a go of it. Maybe I'll bring somebody else along with me or something like that. I'll just go and do it. Or I'll bring Hudson and it'll just be the 2 of us." And she's like, "No. I'm going to go. I'm like, "You're going to go. You're going to drive up after your nail appointment?" She's like, "Yep. After my nail appointment, right away." I was like, "Okay." So she did. And she fucking made it, man. I couldn't believe it. I was setting up camp, and I was like, I'm going to get a text, and she's going to be like, "Yeah, I'm not going to make it, blah, 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 blah." Or she's going to get cold feet or something like that. No, she showed up. I had everything in place. She didn't have to do anything. I did give her one job, and that was to find sticks to roast marshmallows with, which was hilarious because she needed to use the hatchet in order. So that was fun. Yeah, that was interesting. So I had, she shows up. She's like, "This is really nice. It's gorgeous. The scenery is amazing. Like the view, if you go up by the big pond, like it's so out in the open, this beautiful view of the mountains. I mean, it is just absolutely amazing." We were in Dover, Vermont, like I said, and we were ready to go. It was going to be a good time. So she's there. I'm just getting the fire started as she rolls up. Fire's going. Get the seats out. She's all set. There's so much gear. And I told her about the heater. I was like, "Yep, I got this heater. We're good to go. This should be awesome." She says, "Perfect." His sun's starting to go down. I'm like, I should probably get started making dinner. Made Franks and beans, out of this world. We discovered, see, Eleanor likes almost any kind of people food, but for the longest time, you would give her a hot dog and she would turn her nose up at it and walk away. And I'd be like,
it's not made of real dog, dummy.
So she would just look at it. Well, she was kind of like, looked like she was interested in what we were eating. So Holly's like, we have an extra dog. Go ahead and give her a piece. So I break a piece of the wiener and I go, here you go, Eleanor.
Do you like wieners?
She takes a bite and puts it in her mouth and she's holding it for like 4 or 5 minutes. And then she begins to chew it and is like, no, I like this. So she had a couple of dogs that night. It was good. She was all right. We're looking at the time and I'm like, it's so freaking dark. Holy shit. And we realized we were going to be in bed by I was like, we're going to be in bed by 9 o'clock. We were in bed by 10 of 8. It was so freaking dark. And we're just like, let's go in the tent, whatever. And it was, I was cold. I was wearing a base layer top with a pair of jeans and my wool socks and my boots, and I had a flannel on, and I was fine. I was all right, especially near the fire. It wasn't a problem. But I brought some extra layers in case because I knew my wife wouldn't. So I had an insulated zip-up thermal hoodie that she could wear. I had a bunch of this other stuff, and I said a few things that night. I was like, "You're making me cold." She's sitting there in a t-shirt by the fire. Like, are you okay? Seriously? I'm like, I have other stuff for you. She's like, no, I'm fine. It's warm right here. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm like, I sound like my mother. I do. I sound just like my mother. And she got a good laugh out of that. So we decided we're going to turn in. She had set up her cot, set up the way that she wanted it. And we go ahead and we get in there. We're, laying in our cots. We're like, okay, cool. I'm like, how are you doing? Are you cold? She's like, yeah, I'm freezing. And I was like, okay, let's go ahead. We'll fire this heater up. So this is the first time I ever had to do this. So I had to, for whatever reason, there was no English in the instruction book that came with this heater.
Really?
I don't know if there was a separate book that was maybe in the box and I chucked it.
It wasn't a return, was it?
That's what I'm wondering, if maybe it was. But I mean, the heater worked fine. I did a quick YouTube search, hit YouTube University, and figured out the proper way to heat it up and get it started, lighting the pilot light and everything. And then we got it going. It was great. She's like, okay, that's awesome. I was like, when you're comfortable and everything's good. I was basically, what I was really doing is waiting to hear her start snoring. Because I don't know if I've ever told this story about my wife on the show, but my wife, it's like that. So I'm waiting for her to start snoring. And once she does, I shut that off and I roll over to fall asleep. It's 30 minutes maximum. She's up. She's like, oh my God. I'm like, fuck. All right, cool. So we're going back and forth. Eventually, we both fall asleep for a short period of time. And then she wakes me up and the clock says it's 1:18 a.m. And she's like, is it raining? And I can hear it on the tent. I'm like, what the fuck? So I think she actually got up and was like, shit, I left my shoes out under, outside the tent. I was like, yeah, just grab them and put them under your bed. It's fine. I'm like, I put this blanket here to catch all the dirt so I could fold it up and carry the dirt out. So I'm like, it's okay. It'll work out. She's like, oh, all right. And my boots were out there as well. So she grabbed those. I had, everything was good after that. I said, look, we're up. I'm going to put the heater back on. I light it back up, warm everything up. She falls asleep. I am about to fall asleep. I shut the heater back off. We're out for a little while. She claims that she saw every hour. She would wake up, fall asleep for a little bit, wake back up, fall asleep. And she's like, it was basically because of the cold. Eleanor was as cozy as could be, tucked up under the blankets, but that was the issue. Eleanor was basically robbing her of blankets. So her lower layer was getting scooped up by the dog. Every time she would roll over, anything that was loose would go to her. So she's like, yeah, I'm just laying on the canvas. I'm like, you must have been fucking freezing. Now, she was wearing a one-piece thermal union suit style, like PJs. So she had a decent layer, but I'm like, I have to track her down a good synthetic base layer, something that she can put on under that kind of stuff for cold weather things. We'll get there eventually, but this heater did an amazing job. I got up at my clock said it was 4:18, and no, not 4:18. It was like 4:45. And I got up to take a whiz. I go walking out into the alongside the tent, and come back in, and I lay down, and I'm like, I don't want to be up this early. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till at least the sun fires up. So I didn't want to do this, but I put the heater on and I let myself fall back to sleep. Because I'm like, it's got an anti-tip, and it's got an tip like emergency shutoff, all this other stuff. I'm like, we'll see what happens. I'm like, she says she keeps waking up. I'm like, same thing. When I got up and got out of the tent, she was up when I came back in. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to fire this sucker up and let it go. So I did. I fired it up. Did I fall asleep? I forget if I fell asleep or not. I know I did. I don't know if I actually left it on. But then I got up once the sun was up. I got up and I said, all right, I'm going to just fire this up, let her be warm and let her sleep in while I get a fire started, start making some coffee, start putting breakfast together. And that's exactly what happened. And she was happy as a clam with that heater going. It was fine. I was like, all right, that's a good thing. I do want to get a carbon monoxide detector and keep that in there for when we're using it. We had probably went a little bit excessive with the ventilation. Between the ventilation we had just in the ceiling with those panels, because there's space in between the screen and the rainfly, between that and the windows that we had that were open a decent amount to let plenty of air in, or allow any of that carbon monoxide to vent out. We were in a pretty good position. I was like, okay, I feel pretty confident about this now. She woke up when breakfast was ready, was like, this is freaking awesome. It was great. I asked her how she slept. She was like,
it was the worst night's sleep of my life. I saw every hour. Holy shit, I froze.
And with all that, she still wants to do this again, which is good. Fucking awesome. So I told her, I said, look, I would love to see us maybe plan 2-3 week-long trips in a summer. Maybe we do one a month or something like that. I'm like, your schedule allows for that kind of thing. Like, if we can get a couple of long trips like that, because our goal is to travel around, find an area that we both really love and appreciate. And then I think the plan is that we're going to be kind of snowbirds, go down south and avoid the winters and live down there, and then move back up here. Now, obviously, we have a number of years before my youngest is old enough for us to be able to do this. But I told her, I was like, in those years, it's probably a good time for us to figure out where we want to set up that seasonal camp. And I was like, and this is a good way to do it. And part of the reason why I wanted her to get into tent camping, because like this, obviously all this gear I can use with a bunch of different folks. If you and I want to go do a trip, or Joe and I want to go do a trip or something like that, we can do that shit. I could go and sleep in my truck and go with 2 buddies and have them set up ready to go in this lodge. It'd be a piece of cake. This gives me a lot of options, but it also opens up her eyes that like we don't need a fucking McMansion on wheels to go and do this. Like, we don't have to buy a $250,000 house on wheels to lug wherever we're going. Like, we can get by with like a couple's camper, and it would be just fine. So that I think that point was driven home. She had an absolute blast. I got home. She was a little bit chilly and she wanted to hit the road kind of early. I said, go for it. I was like, I'm going to tear down all this stuff on my own, take my time, finish my coffee, break everything down. And I'm going to head out and take the back roads home. And I did. I got home and it was about 3:00. It was awesome. Hung out with the fam. It was good. The bad news for this weekend is that you remember last Thanksgiving, Eleanor started with a pretty significant seizure, right? And we had been giving her medication since. This morning I wake up, I get downstairs, and my wife's like, yeah, Eleanor had a seizure last night. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. And she felt terrible because Eleanor's seizure meds were in the car. And she's like, yeah, she had her afternoon one when we got home. I gave it to her in the car. She goes, but her night one, she said to me as I was going upstairs to bed, she's like, because that's how it works in my house. My wife just passes out on the couch. And she was supposed to get up early and go to work. So she's like, I was supposed to go and, I told her, I was like, I'll give Eleanor her snack. And she's like, oh, they're in my car. She's like, don't worry about it. Well, I'll just give her one in the morning. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I guess overnight she had a seizure and woke her up. My wife felt like garbage. She's like, oh my God. It obviously is more than likely just a coincidence that's the situation. But so we're keeping an eye on her today and see what's going on. And then I had to bring my youngest to go get her lower braces put on. And I had to shell out hundreds of dollars to make a payment on that. Fun times, folks.
Dude, I'm on the tail end of that. One of mine got his braces off. The other one is a little bit longer. We had him paid off last year. We just dumped everything we could into it, got it paid off. And no, we're just waiting. One more. Yeah.
Friggin', it's unbelievable. So this is the lower set. We'll see how this goes. Man, it was an amazing week. I'm stoked. I don't know. I actually, at the end of last week, I was like, yeah, this might be the tail end of me taking the kayak out. I'm like, it might be Banks ends from here on out. We'll see what happens. But from the sound of it, it sounds like we got one more in the tank. So I'm psyched. Yeah.
Through the invite out there next week. If we do something, you're welcome to come with us.
Yeah, I would love it.
It's fun.
I would love it. And in fact, I think even if that trip falls through, if you're down, let's go and hit the Swift or some shit. Let's fucking fill the freezer.
Fuck that. No, I'm not busting out the wetsuit. No, that's too dangerous. It's too cold. We were still at 120 out there this weekend.
No shit.
Mike, the last of my fishing is going to be at Cape Cod because the bass are still biting. Like I said, those herring are massing up and it's a good time to be fishing on Cape Cod right now. I think that's, I'm all set with the Swift. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. It's more of an adventure now for me to get out, to go to the Cape and then get a bite to eat at Max. And I've been doing that for years. I'm rolling in my November.
All right.
I do have something else before we wrap up segment one here.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were trying for your multi-species. Well, we have a multi-species closed out for October, the scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
So I want to go through the folks in the money, and why don't we do the drawing next week? We'll do the drawing for the prizes.
We'll do the drawing next week. Yeah, good idea.
Yep. So fourth place, big surprise right here. You did it, boy.
I did. Fucking A.
Fourth place with 8 points. Beating my man Ryan Stager out for for fourth place. Both you guys had 8 points. You had 112 inches. He had 104. Congratulations, tiebreaker to you, dude. Sir.
Fuck.
Yep. Third place, Tim Bean. Also, actually, second and third place.
Oh, really? Okay.
Both had 11 points. Tim Bean got third with 11. Jerry Howe's got a big surprise. Jerry Multi-House, second place. Both of them with 11 points. Jerry had 166 3/4 inches. Tim had 151 3/4. And first place, congrats. Big number, 13 species, 13 points. John Hagens, he also, just on a side note, correspondingly had the most length, which figures just shy of 200. He had 198 inches. So congrats to our 4 winners. Again, we'll do the prize drawing next week, a little more prepared. And we've got our format down, folks. We hope to see everyone back next year and some new folks. Come out and try it. All you need is a catch board and a smartphone, really.
Yeah.
Download Fishing Chaos, and we'll be back next year, April through October, every month. And we'll be back too. We're gonna have our midsummer special again. Come out, fish.
Yeah, it'll be
fun.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll have a blast.
I should mention that we did release the link to our jig heads for tickets for the 200th episode that's coming up on January the 13th. Again, like, it's a fundraiser, and I've been really transparent about the dollars that's included. The fact that we're doing this as a game dinner is really what's making the ticket price so high. It's kind of bananas, to be totally honest. We have tickets are available right now, and they're going. Like, our jig heads are taking advantage of this. So, jig heads, if you're watching this live stream as we record the show recording right now, and you haven't got your tickets, every single one of you, I've seen 4 people that are in there. We got Chrissy Fishing, we got HB Tricky, we got Zach Marston, we got Vidal. And Vidal's probably not going to make the flight up from Texas, but he could. You never know. If you guys need tickets for your adventures to the 200th episode, go ahead and get them now. They're available for you. I should say this. Those casual listeners that are not members of the Jighead fam, if you're waiting for your opportunity to get tickets for the show, that is happening on Friday, Veterans Day. I'm going to be dropping the link. It will be available on jigsandbigs.com. It will be available all over social media, our Facebook page, our Instagram stories with a link, the whole nine. All of it's going to be there. You will be able to get your tickets on Veterans Day. We're going to kick that off. And I'm stoked. I'm stoked for that. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then, yes, we're going to have Christian on. We've been going for over an hour right now, guys. We said this was going to be pretty streamlined, this show.
Yeah.
Which is how it always happens. We got a lot of good stuff for you in segment number 2. Our Just the Tip involves toothy critters and how not to lose a limb the most appropriate way. We're going to have a good conversation about that. And it pairs well with the fact that we do a lot of multi-species targeting. We kind of are open to it all. Then in, what do we have? Oh, an FTG. We got a doozy for you guys. This week's FTG comes courtesy of, it was actually WWLP that had shared this story. We got some information that 2 hunters were cited for shooting a bird released by Massachusetts researchers. And they got exactly what they should have gotten, I think. Yeah, we're going to talk about this. What a couple of idiots. And then in our gear of the week, you guys ever hear of night eyes? You're going to find out about it. You're going to fuck around and find out. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far. Much more Jigs and Bigs action coming up for you after this. Oh, and by the way, Drew Gregory's in the beef seat this week. We're talking Kayak Adventure Series. Why is Bobby Roast Beef so stoked on tournament fishing? This series is special. You'll find out why I'm so jacked about this whole idea. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far.
Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We're excited to offer Jigs and Bigs listeners a 15% off savings on your first installment of a month-to-month subscription to Dark Horse Tackle just by using the code JIGSandBIGS15. Dark Horse Tackle provides a monthly supply of small batch craft and custom lures, allowing anglers to try some otherwise tough to discover baits. This is the stuff you're not going to find just anywhere. And Dark Horse Tackle does the hard part for you. They track down these small companies and then test the baits to determine if it's a good enough fit for the Dark Horse Tackle community. You can also build your own box with Dark Horse Tackle. Select your own baits in a BYOB and try it before you subscribe, or just pick up some past baits that you may have missed out on from previous boxes. Jigs and Bigs listeners can save 25% on a BYOB using the code J&B BYOB25. Subscribe now and build your own box at darkhorsetackle.com. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters. Located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut, Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories by Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yakutak, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and many more. Financing options are available to upgrade your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery also available. Visit ThreeBellsOutfitters.com for more information, and do not forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. Next, we need to thank Abe Lure. Abe Lure, a quality product at a quality price, painted by a fishing fanatic who just wants to see you catch fish. You can get your own custom painted lures with a 20% off savings using the code Jigs and Bigs at checkout. Visit abelure.com to order. But wait, there's more. Have you always wanted to fish the famed St. Lawrence River? Well, stay in Alexandria Bay at either the Bay House Apartment or the Ship Motel. Links for booking can be found in the description of this podcast. Reaction Tackle is the Jigs and Bigs approved source for tungsten, all types of fishing line, a variety of fishing storage and accessories, and a whole lot more. Reaction Tackle provides high value for your money. Click the affiliate link in the description of this podcast to check out their wide selection right now. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. All links and codes are listed in the show notes of each podcast. Hey, you. Yeah, you. the one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast.
Bobby, Sean, and Who the Fuck is Joe Brown now have a special presentation for us all. It's time for Just the Tip.
Alrighty, guys. Just the tip. Here we are. How many of you have been out there fishing and, maybe you target bass primarily, and that's your go-to species. Bass, they have teeth. They do. They have those pads that are real rough. That's like sandpaper. They can really tear up your thumb on a really good day. It's like a badge of courage. But I will tell you this much. Occasionally, you're going to hook into something that's got some chompers. I'm not talking about a great white shark or anything like that. That can happen if you're fishing in the salt. But I am talking about you're going to catch a sizable pickerel. You might catch a bowfin. You might catch yourself a big-ass pike, like a 4-footer, something like that. How do you handle these fish? Well, Sean had a situation with one of his pin-winning pickerel, and he shared a picture in the host chat, and it was a gruesome scene. Sean, why don't you explain for our listeners, and I would like to know as well, the proper way to handle some of these species?
I don't know if we're going to go into proper. I'm just going to give my experience on this. Most of us have seen videos on YouTube, on fishing shows, on anything, where a pike pro will grab a pike or a muskie underneath its gill, almost by its chin, where its gill flap is, and they're holding on to all the tissue that's underneath their gill plate, but they're not touching the gills. They're wrapped around that, and they're leaving the gills alone for the most part. So I've been trying to do that more and more, especially with bigger pickerel and pike that I've been catching, because it is a safer grip, because your hand is basically behind their teeth.
Yeah,
you're not risking losing anything. Now, Saturday, I made a tactical error where I did not bring my little Fancy Dan $4 fish hook remover.
Oh, yeah.
So while I was waiting for Ryan to paddle over me with his paddles, I gave him a yell. I was running a crankbait all weekend and at the Cape, and these fish were inhaling it and hitting. Here's a side note. We'll just throw this in on Just a Tip. Every fish I caught, a dozen fish, all of them hit the red hook that I replaced on the front end of a lipless crankbait.
No shit.
No jumping it around, just reeling it straight back in over a weed bed, and everything killed it that way. But every fish, every bass, and the pickerel all inhaled the red hook. But this thing was choked with this crankbait. So as I was waiting for Ryan to come over with the crankbait in its mouth, me having no way to really get at it because I'm an idiot, I got the pickerel calmed down and then pulled my line up while it was in the net, and I was able to grab it by the underside. Now, what I've usually done in the past, especially if it's a clean hook set in the corner of the mouth or the lure is hanging out, I've grabbed them from behind, and I think that kind of does do a little bit of damage to the gills. I've grabbed them from the top of the head, kind of like pinching with my middle finger and my thumb. And I don't know how healthy that is, especially seeing how the way that pros grab it. So I've started doing that more often now, grabbing it underneath. And I grabbed this one. And again, my hands were safe from the teeth, but there's a lot of stuff inside members of the Esox family that can carve up your hands. Yeah. And it thrashed while I was holding it and ripped, literally ripped a ton of skin off my, for whatever reason, my a little bit. I got a little bit on my my index finger, but almost all the skin is gone on all of my knuckles.
Yeah.
Between my knuckle on my fist and my first knuckle on each finger. And I was bleeding pretty good. And it was, cold. It was starting to get cold by the time I caught that fish. And I tend to bleed a little more in the cold. Plus, you were saying something to me about anticoagulant inside the mouths of Esau's family members. And I bled out pretty good. I mean, I was still bleeding on one finger for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes later.
Yeah, it sucks.
But I was gross. It was nasty. I was holding it in that one spot. I never lost the grip. While that thrashing did give me a little bit of worry, I didn't end up with a hospital trip. I bandaged my hands up, washed them when I got to the restaurant. So my advice to anyone who's doing this, you're going to catch pickerel in New England. They eat bass lures as
all the time,
as was the case Saturday. Try that if you can calm them down. Definitely play them out a little bit and let them get tired. Bring them in just like Northern Pike. I had to learn that lesson a long time ago.
Yep.
And try to grab them underneath. Just be very, very careful about it. Obviously, especially some of the bigger ones have some really, really, really big teeth and you will get fucked up. But try grabbing them underneath the gills, leaving their gills alone, not on top like I was doing it. Mm-hmm. And you might get a small couple of scrapes like I did from the gills or whatever's in there. Yep. But you're not going to end up in the hospital with pickerel teeth stuck into you or, God forbid, a severed finger. Something that might require stitches. So grab that. And then bonus tip. Hey, on your crankbaits, replace the forward hook with a red hook. Just saying.
There you go.
Shit works.
I love it.
And just for the contrast, I threw the same lure a little later on because I lost the first one.
Yep.
I threw the same lure and it didn't have the red hook. I got no hits on it and I switched out the hook and that's when I caught the pickerel and one other bass. And I should note, I don't know if I told you this. You're going to have a laugh at this. I didn't cast for that pickerel. I caught a 14 and like 3/4 inch bass.
Yep.
And I unhooked him and I fired him back in the water and I was undoing just a little hair of backlash. It wasn't much, maybe 5 feet. As I was pulling it out, the lure dropped into the water and the pickerel came and just grabbed it. All I had to do was click my bail over.
Really?
And then I fought it and he pulled a shit ton of drag. Yeah.
Oh, bet you.
He was sitting there at the boat. I saw him 3 feet from me come out of nowhere and annihilate a fucking crankbait that was sitting there not moving.
No shit.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
And Ryan was on the other side. And I said, holy shit. And then I said, I need the pliers.
Holy shit, look at them buns.
Yeah, that was some crazy shit. So
that's crazy.
Be careful with your pickerel and your pike and your bowfin. Bowfin have that flap that opens up, so really be careful with them. But I've been grabbing things underneath the chin lately and it seems to work. So I take no liability for your safety issues. Please look up some YouTube videos. I'm sure somebody has done something there saying this is how you properly hold a member of the Essex family, Esau's, Essex, whatever the fuck they are. Don't die. Thanks. That's all I got for you. There's just a tip this week.
Fair enough, man. Jeez. All right. Well, it's time, and actually, Chrissy Fishing is throwing a little something in here. We're going to give this a mention too. I hadn't even heard about this. So, Chrissy, if you have any details, go ahead, drop them in the chat right now. We'll talk about that too. But
fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Bobby, before you read the article, I did come across that article Chrissy's talking about.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I did, and I made the executive decision to run with ours because ours ties into fishing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The other one, that's a hunting thing. I mean, there's going to be stupid shit with that, but we're a fishing show, so we're going to roll with this. Chrissy, thank you. We did see it, but this was my decision.
So
don't hate me.
I had mentioned earlier 2 hunters cited for shooting a loon that was released by Massachusetts researchers. This story was posted on the 2nd of November. 2 Massachusetts hunters were cited after shooting a loon that was released by researchers to increase their declining population. Because we need more loons. We just need more. They all have lead poisoning. According to the Massachusetts Environmental Police, on the opening day of Berkshire waterfowl hunting season, October the 9th, 2 hunters were in a canoe on a drinking water supply reservoir that is not open to hunting. On the same morning, researchers released a juvenile common loon on that same body of water.
The loon was shot by hunters. However, they returned the bird after learning of the loon project and identifying it. They were both cited for hunting public land without a permit, taking/possessing a species of concern, and taking a bird out of season. In Massachusetts, from September the 15th to May the 15th, canoeists and kayakers are required to wear a life jacket. The hunters were in possession of life jackets. However, they were not being worn. Both are cited for failing to wear personal flotation devices. Massachusetts Environmental Police are reminding hunters to positively identify birds before attempting to take them. To learn about the identifying waterfowl, visit mass.gov. I don't know what feels better, the PFD citation or God.
I sent you this article, and I believe you look through your text messages. I simply wrote, where do we start with these two?
Yeah.
Obviously the PFD thing, Ryan and I were, it's by the law. We had our PFDs on the whole day the other day on Cape Cod, and we counted the amount of people that we saw. Either everyone was not wearing PFDs. We saw a couple in a canoe. It was an elderly couple.
Yep.
They were not wearing PFDs, but we saw PFDs on their seats. So
that was that's going to do.
We saw a one of the homeowners on this lake also came out in a recreational sit-in kayak, no PFD seen. And then there was a gentleman in a canoe using his PFD as a seat rest. But the canoe he was paddling like a rowboat. It was a canoe with gunwales.
Oh my God.
All those people and Ryan and I were like, look at these, like, this is so stupid. How at least two of the people had fishing licenses. It says it in there. It says in the abstracts, when you get a fishing license, you have to wear your PFD. I don't understand. Like, I don't know. All these people were older than us by a lot. If they go in the water, they're fucking dead. I just don't understand. So let's start there with our two favorite guys here.
For sure. Yeah, so, that's for starters.
PFDs not being worn. We've covered this to death, and we'll continue to beat this dead horse, because if there's one person in Massachusetts said, wow, I didn't realize that we had to wear our PFDs between May 15th and September 15th. You got me going on that, and I understand. One person. That means we may have saved a life. I will continue to beat this dead horse forever.
Exactly.
And even in that period, from May 15 to September 15, guess what's on the water mostly at that time? Wreck boats. I wear my PFD when I am in my kayak. I don't give a shit about the date. Okay. Yeah. It's just the smart thing to do. Now, next up, we have hunting out of season, right? Is that what citation number one was?
Was it hunting hunting a public body that was not open to hunting?
Oh, we'll get there next.
Yeah. Okay.
There's like 4 or 5 things here that just. I thought it was hunting out of season. I don't know if waterfowl season is right now. I'm not a hunter.
It was opening day for waterfowl season.
Okay. All right. So they're okay on that. We'll give them a break. At least they went out hunting during waterfowl season.
They were cited for hunting public land without a permit and taking or possessing a species of concern.
So the next thing is they were on a drinking water reservoir, right? So for those of you guys outside of Massachusetts, with the population of the state and the water usage, we do have a lot of reservoirs that are designated for drinking water, and you can't hunt or fish on them. I'm sure it was posted.
Not all of them. Like, they vary. They vary. Like, some you can fish on, some you can't.
Correct.
But that's the thing. It's like, there's rules. You got to look into this shit, you know?
Yeah. It's not just go out and do what you want. This is not Vietnam. There are rules.
Yep.
So chances are that body of water was posted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I'm leaning towards illiteracy here. And then the third thing with how the fuck do you mistake a loon for a duck?
Yeah.
I mean, are there there's maybe 1 or 2 small species of duck that are like pure black and white, right? Maybe 1 or 2. And I think they're migratory.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a million ducks, but I don't hunt. I
usually don't
really care about their species.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
I'm a little blown away at this. I mean, it's not like loons and cormorants. How do you mistake them for a duck?
Yeah.
They're diving birds.
Yeah.
The head
They look
shape
completely
is different.
Their
The beak is
yeah,
totally
the head
different.
shape.
Yep.
Correct. I don't get that. So this was a comedy of errors. I don't know if this was young kids. Does it say the ages of the hunters in there?
It doesn't say anything about them.
A lot of stuff going on here that could have been easily prevented. So I guess fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those guys. That is ridiculous. Oh. And of course, there's
But I mean, they did the right thing by accident. I mean, shooting it and then turning it in saying, oh, we fucked up. But
yeah, I'll give them credit for that. But
I don't think they realized what doors they were opening.
I'll bet you they're regretting making that decision now. But you know what? That's just how it works. You know, you're not wearing your PFDs when you're not following the law to the, you know, date specifications, the body of water. You're not wearing your PFDs. You're, you know, all this kind of shit. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't want to say karma, but it's like you play stupid games and play win stupid prizes.
I hate to say it, our society in this point requires you to have some level of intelligence to start reading things so you don't fuck yourself over.
Too many people just don't do that, though.
Yeah, nobody spends any time doing any of that shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
On to the next.
Yeah, on to the fucking next.
Fucking ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so what do we got? We got Gear of the Week up next. This ought to be good. And this is a Sean the Fisherman piece of gear right here. Let's find out about it.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Bigs Gear of the Week.
Love this segment.
Yes, sir. I wanted to talk about the Night Eyes. God, what is it called? It's a phone. It's a phone tether, but it's a different phone tether than most of us are accustomed to. I know a lot of people use the
Rogue ones, right?
Yeah, they that are rubbery and they stretch over the corners of the phone, and then it's a tether from that point. I have had issues. No offense to the companies that make those, but I've had issues with a corner slipping off now and again, because if you get it caught on something, it slips off.
Yep.
It will. And then your phone is at risk for going for a swim. What I have not ever had any sort of issue with, and this is my original, I'm actually going to pop it out for the jig heads who are watching here. The company Night Eyes, they make a lot of carabiners, S-beaners, stuff like that. Walmart has them. Walmart has the brand. I don't know if they have the actual device. This is my original. Pardon?
The full array of products from Night Eyes.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm going to get into where I just purchased some new ones, but this is my original.
Yep.
It's a little tab.
Oh yeah.
With a cloth, what do we want to call it? Cloth penis sticking off. It's a cloth loop with a small O-ring. Right. Yep. And it's a steel O-ring, and I've had this for years. I don't see any rust on it. It did get pulled out a little bit. That's why I was concerned. It used to be a circle. Now it's more of an oval.
Yep.
So I did at some point put some stress on it, but it bent and didn't break.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So that told me to replace this. But
you can replace that. That's the thing.
Correct. And this Night Eyes it's not adhesive. It's a plastic cover. So you put it in between your phone and its case, and then you stick the cloth loop with the stainless steel, I'm guessing stainless steel O-ring out of it, and then you hook a tether to that. And for that, I do use a Night Eyes locking S-beaner to the tether on both ends. Okay. That's if I've got it to my life vest. If I hook it to my boat, I just wrap the I wrap the tether around itself. It's a loop on the other end. Wrap it through and run it through and pull it right through that. It's a bungee loop.
How do you prefer yours? On tethered to the boat or tethered to you?
So this is funny. If I'm wearing a sweatshirt and it's cool out, I tether it to my life vest.
Yep.
All right, and then I put it in my pocket.
Gotcha.
Because I'm using it for pictures, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
If it's nicer out and I'm wearing a t-shirt or a performance shirt, I actually loop it to the seat of whatever kayak I'm in.
Yep.
And then I put it on top, underneath me, on top, so it's keeping it out of any water.
Yeah, there you go.
On top of tackle boxes, tackle bags, whatever.
Gotcha.
So I just ordered 3 more of these. These have lasted me at least 3 years each. I want to say this is my original. It might be my second. I'm starting to think it's my second now. But either way, for $14, I have not lost a phone with these things. And obvious for those of you guys who can see this. I have beat the shit out of this thing for like 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And it took a beating. It's time to get a new one. I'll spend the $15. And the reason this came up was there are a number of imitators out there of this product now. And they're very, very, very inexpensive. And when I looked at how much they cost and I thought about it, I'm like, I always go with stuff that's tried and true, whether it's lures, whether it's line, whether it's rods. This Night Ice product has done me nothing but good. I have not lost a phone. I have not even thought about it breaking. So I bought 3 of them. My wife and my youngest will probably be out in the boats with me next year, and I made sure we each have one.
Yeah.
So
smart.
For $15, that's my insurance policy on my phone.
Yep.
Tried and true.
Yep.
And Bobby, I got a bonus for you. I didn't even tell you about.
Oh, all right. What do you tell me?
Tried a little something new the other day. Okay. I didn't take one of the natives out on the ponds we went to out on the Cape. I wanted to use live scope, so I dusted off the gnar and brought that out.
Nice.
Which meant I had to move all my rod holders. I had to move my tackle. I had to move a bunch of shit, which is fine. My solution to that is coming up this winter.
Yep.
But I had to figure out what I was doing with tackle, because in the Ultimates, I put my 4 3700 boxes and my Busby bag underneath. The Busby bag is the size of a 3700 box, just deeper. I put those under my seat. Well, I can't do that on the gnar. It doesn't have enough clearance. I wouldn't be able to pull the boxes out.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I went back to my Feel Free bag.
Oh, yeah, dude.
My Feel Free bag holds 4 3700 boxes and the Busby bag perfectly, and it might be able to fit another 3700 box.
Oh yeah, I've got that same bag, man, and I use the hell out of that bag. I have it's so funny, man. Like I don't have every piece of tackle that I have that I'm going to use is in that bag. Every single piece of tackle, and I have a day box just to keep things nearby. And then also I'll use that day box when I'm like bank fishing. I'll change things out. But yeah, I'm in and out of that Feel Free bag all the time. I'm glad it worked. That's great.
Yeah, and like I said, it works for the gnar, but for the Ultimates, I have the access without turning around. Yeah, and that's way more important to me. For speed, for peace of mind,
efficiency, everything. Yeah,
it worked out really, really, really well.
That's awesome.
But yeah, just the fact that the Busby fit into that bag as well. Yeah. I slipped that right in there and said bonus.
That's awesome.
We did all right. So
I love it. Sweet, dude.
There you go.
That's good news. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and take a quick break right now. But when we get back, I have an amazing interview with Drew Gregory, who, if you are a kayak angler and you're like, who the hell is Drew Gregory? You are living under a rock. We're talking about, this guy is one of the big names in kayak fishing, not only from like a tournament standpoint, from at that elite level, but also from a design standpoint. He's worked with Jackson previously. He's the guy that gave you the Crescent Shoaly, and he's also got something brewing right now that he says created a lot of work for him, but I see this being a very, very, very positive thing. The Kayak Adventure Series. It's a different type of regional type trail that is going to totally change your impressions of what tournament fishing can be for kayaks. It's really much more of an experience overall. I'm looking forward to it. He will do a much better job of explaining what it's all about. We got some great questions. You're not going to want to miss this, guys. Coming up right after the break, we will see you very shortly. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. If there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing.
I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jig heads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. All right, guys, we're back. Bobby Roast Beef with another guest in the beef seat this week on this episode of Jigs and Bigs. We've got a name in our seat that you have heard a lot lately, but you've heard a lot of, just especially in the kayak fishing world, in that sort of area, all kinds of good stuff. Let's discuss who we have here. We've got Drew Gregory, guys, no stranger to fishing podcasts, fishing content everywhere. Let's talk about Drew a little bit. Drew has been pioneering the sport of kayak fishing since its early days, as he first got into kayak fishing all the way back in 2004. He went full-time in the sport in 2009 to design his own line of kayaks with Jackson Kayak. Today, he designs for Crescent Kayaks, but ever since his first signature series designs up to his latest with Crescent Kayaks, the Shoaly, that was his, Drew's designs have set a new standard in kayak fishing. He prides himself on developing never-before-seen features that are now standard in nearly all or many fishing kayaks. He's had success in his designs because as a kayak angler and at one of the highest levels of competition in kayak bass fishing, he's most known for his love and passion for river bassin, as he's coined it. In 2020, he shifted focus to the tournament side of the sport, where he's now fished over 50 national tournaments, which have resulted in an average finish of 14 out of an average field size of 140. That makes him the top 10%. His success led him to earn the 2020 AOY for the Hobie Bass Open Series, and more recently, the 2022 Angler of the Year title in the Bassmaster Classic Series. Drew, welcome to the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a lot, man. You're starting to make me feel feel my age here. I've been around doing this a while, I guess.
You have. I mean, a lot of people throw around, when we talk to kayak anglers, they'll say, oh, I got into fishing in a kayak in the late 2000s, maybe 2009, 2010, something like that. A lot of folks. You started 19 years ago. That's crazy.
That's pretty wild, man. That's so wild. To see where it's come was just crazy.
Yeah.
But glad to be here and just looking forward to this talk today and see what we can get into.
Oh, absolutely. And the sport has changed. And I love that you can tell in, other interviews that you've done on the on different podcasts or YouTube live streams or anything like that. You can tell that your passion really does genuinely lie in growing the sport. And I feel like I congratulate you for that, because I think that that's one of the most noble causes for angling in general, regardless of the platform. But the fact that, kayak fishing is special. I try to explain that to people all the time, that it's current. Like I have two favorite modes of fishing that I like to explain to folks when we talk. I always say the best is someone else's boat. You know what I mean? Their investment, everything else, someone else's boat is great. But the next best thing is fishing in my own kayak, because you can do almost anything. You're the only barrier to what you can pull off, and your level of comfort and everything else. And I try to recommend to everybody that, if you like to fish, even if it's just a little bit, do yourself a favor, get yourself a kayak and get it out there and enjoy it regardless. It's going to change your fishing experience for the best forever. But let's kind of get to know the road that you journeyed to get where we're at today, because we do have something very specific we're going to be talking about, which is the Kayak Adventure Series, which is amazing. And I'm even hyped about it as a non-competitive angler. I think this could be the thing. This could be this, and it brings back something that I really, really am very, very excited of, and that's the camaraderie of fishing and the community element that's kind of threaded through all of it. But let's start at the beginning. How did you get into the outdoors in general? Not even just kayak fishing, but how did you get into the outdoors, and what kind of led us up to this point?
I mean, it really comes down to similar to most people's stories. You got somebody in your family. For me, it was just my parents and my dad and my mom and their parents. So my grandparents all fished, the bass fished. They're from Texas. So one set of grandparents retired on Toledo Bend. Another one is on the Sabine there. I know the Sabine, we kind of joke about it with the Bassmaster Elite Series. It doesn't have the biggest bass, but it's got a lot of bass, and it's a lot of fun to go fish. So my grandfather there would take me out, and we would catch good numbers of fish and just have a ton of fun just catching fish. So they kind of all got me into the outdoors. My dad would take me wade fishing in creeks and exploring, looking for crawfish and snakes and frogs and lizards, just fun stuff in the outdoors. So that's kind of where it all came from. And surprisingly, everybody, even my mom, has the bug, and she loves to fish. And awesome. They're in their 70s now. They still get out and give it a whirl, as much as they can. So they kind of instilled it in me. And ever since then, you do, like most people, you kind of go ebb and flow through the things that you were taught or you did when you were a kid. So I had my phases where I was kind of out of it, picked up other sports and, golf and other stuff, just played lots of stuff as a kid.
Sure.
But then eventually sort of just came back to it, right after college, just kind of my love for fishing just sort of, guess it was ingrained in me, just sort of came back to it, and then it stuck forever.
That's the way. That's it's a very common story where it just starts early, and then even if you get away from it at some point in your life, it's just one of those things where you end up falling right back into it at some point. Now let's kind of dive into what current day Drew Gregory is working on. I think I heard you mention, I think it was in the Catch podcast, that you created in here something really special and really amazing for the kayak fishing world. But you also made a ton of work for yourself, and that's the Kayak Adventure Series. So let's talk about your adventure. What was the inspiration?
Man, there's a lot of inspiration. So originally I started, like you said in your intro, that the brand River Bassin.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when I ran this River Bassin tournament trail, I ran it for, about 8 years, and it was a little bit ahead of its time, but people now have been over the years have been messaging me, especially even more recently, just because they miss that, the ability to really utilize the kayaks for the same reason, that I got into the sport, to fish in wild places, get out there and access in cool, fun public places that get you to some just unpressured fish. So over all the years, I've been messaged a lot by people, hey, let's bring it back. And we had 40 to 100 people maybe, attend those events. So it wasn't bad, but it was still, I think, a little bit ahead of its time. Yeah. But the thing is, I wanted to fix before I brought anything back, I wanted to fix any of the issues, there weren't a lot of issues, but one of them was, well, if I focus on just rivers, then if we have flooding or high rain, then you have to cancel an event.
Exactly.
And so that, made it challenging. So that's why in the Kayak Adventure Series, you'll notice we have lakes and rivers and bounds at every event, except for the Susquehanna, but it's in the middle of the summer and there's no lakes even nearby. So trust me, no one wants to go to the Susquehanna to fish a lake anyway.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So other than that, they all have lakes and bounds, flat water. So even if it does rain heavily, we've got a lot of safe water for the anglers to fish.
Yep.
So that was sort of part of the inspiration. The other part of the inspiration is just the fact that, man, I do miss like bringing that joy to so many people in their, you know what I mean? Like those opportunities that can change their lives.
Oh yeah.
What I mean is like, given the money or the prizes on stage and just those cool memories that happen at tournaments and the cool experiences, you catch a fish at the last minute, or you have some crazy fight where it wraps you all around a log or under a log or whatever in a tree. And it's just your kayak's floating into it. It's just the cool stories, but it's somehow you got it in and you cast a check or won or something crazy. So I miss that. The team component to it, the 2-man team component is something that people have always said they missed about the River Bassin Trail. So we brought that back for camaraderie. And just in general, I just wanted to bring it back because also, that's my background is sports management. My master's degree is in sports management. I love sports and I love setting this kind of stuff up. And I ran collegiate sports leagues for 5 years before I even got into fishing full time. So I'm always thinking, my mind's always thinking, how can we make our sport, as the forefathers of our sport, the same way that the NFL was, or Major League Baseball or basketball, anything that you see now that we're, 70, 80, 90, 100 years in, somebody at the very beginning was trying to figure out how to make this thing the best possible, as much fun as possible, and as big as possible for everybody, right? To grow it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of the inspiration is like, man, I just have a love for it as well. So we'll see. And growing the sport, like you said, is what this is really all about, because our sport, people still don't really understand. For a sport to be really good and grow that big, like the NFL, baseball, and basketball, like I just mentioned, obviously they are the biggest. So, but they're good on TV. Now, some are better on TV than others, like the NFL in college football is the best because of it only lasts like, 3-4 hours. It doesn't take up, like golf is hard to commit to, right? To watch the entire golf tournament, that's 4 days of your life.
Even baseball.
And all day, 4 days. Baseball, basketball, soccer, they're all really well done. And they're, especially for our short attention span society. And that's why baseball is trying to speed up their games as well.
Exactly.
So fishing just never, like, for us to be successful, guys, it's not going to be a sport that the casual person watches. It's never going to be the greatest TV product, because the only people that will ever tune into a live stream or 3-4 days of tournament bass boat competition are people who actually do it. See what I'm saying? Like fish. So therefore, the only way to grow our sport is to actually grow the anglers who do the sport. Whereas other sports, how many people watch football that don't play football? Like tons.
Millions.
Or watch baseball that don't play baseball. Tons. So we are never going to get that. You're never going to get some casual person that doesn't fish to watch fishing. So the only way to grow it is to actually grow the participants.
And it's so funny, man. Thank you for bringing that up about the television relationship and fishing. The reality of it is like, if you break the mold a little bit, and I feel this way strongly because I have a background in media. I have, I genuinely think that you got to think outside the box a lot of the time. And this isn't just a technology conversation, I mean, you're right. Your average viewer that's going to watch an entire tournament is somebody who's got that vested interest. But your average Joe who maybe has that little inkling and maybe likes to fish 3 or 4 times a year probably isn't going to dedicate that amount of time to watch that thing on television. But if you could give him something, and I love that you guys are doing this, because I think it's My Outdoors TV that you're working with, that you're putting together.
Yes, we are working with My Outdoor TV to turn these into 6 TV episodes. And the idea is we're not live streaming this. The idea is to...
You give an edited product, right? The
edited
best
product,
of the best.
But because the anglers themselves are you can never, like in football, you got all these cameras are covering, all the players are right there on the field and you can see them all with the cameras. Baseball, it's all the same. For our sport, it's too spread out. It's on a lake, public body of water. There's no signal. There's no way to hard. It's just so hard. You can see the challenges that they run into. It's kind of like golf in some ways. It's very spread out to be able to cover everyone. So instead, what we're doing is letting the anglers be the production team themselves by filming with their GoPros or whatever cameras they have. If they choose, they don't have to.
Sure.
But if they don't, they just miss out on the ability to go into the theater. When I say theater, we haven't even gotten to the part yet where the Kayak Adventure Series awards are held in these cool historic theaters around the 6 locations in the country we're going to be. You know, the ones with the marquees and the lights. And, you know, the kind of revitalized downtown.
All that pomp and circumstance. Yeah.
Yes, it's awesome, man. It's really cool. It gives the anglers a true stage to be on too, when the confetti and the smoke's going off.
Yep.
And you know, when we announce the winner, and also the friends, family, the anglers themselves, to be in nice, cool air conditioning with food, concessions, drinks, a comfortable stadium seat. My goodness, you've exhausted yourself for a day and a half on the water and pre-fishing time. Let's get in there. Let's relax in some cool AC and have some fun. And just give the anglers a true stage to be on, which to me, there's nothing wrong with, you know, the hotel lobby or the hotel conference room or whatever to have the results, or a state park pavilion, or all the places we've used in the past. But I just wanted to bring a consistency to the results. And that was our idea, to work with these cities that have these theaters. And there's thousands of, hundreds across the country, if not thousands, that have good fishing nearby and these cool little theaters. So anyway, the filming for the anglers is so they can end up on that big screen, because we're in a theater for a reason. We're going to show pictures and videos of the weekend's catches on that big screen. So also, obviously we can't show it all in an hour award show. Maybe the top 10 that comes on stage will show some videos of their catches if they have them, or if we captured them with my production team. However, 6 months down the road or whatever it is, we're going to have them all edited into short and condensed, and everyone's going to get to see the action from anyone who submitted footage to us. And there will be a submit footage form on the website where anglers can submit their own footage. They just condense it down to the minute or 30 seconds they want. That way we don't have all their footage to scrub through, and they probably wouldn't want to submit all that to us anyway, because it's just you get to choose what you want us to use. So it's kind of like, if you don't want to scene of maybe you accidentally kept the camera rolling, you went out and used the restroom, whatever, like where, no one would want to submit something like that, so you get to pick the cool fish catch or the cool wildlife that, a deer or bear that swam across the river in front of your kayak, or whatever cool thing you want to submit. You get to pick that and submit it to us.
I love that, dude. I think that's exactly what it is. You're truly acting as a steward of the sport by creating something and putting creative effort into something that somebody could watch, like on my outdoor. But I'm sure that this stuff is going to exist also on other formats. You're going to see clips of it on other platforms.
We'll be on YouTube too. Yeah.
And it's like, this is a good thing, because then that one person who's, they get out and fish every once in a while, they're maybe not dialed in to the tournament fishing world. They don't listen to the fishing podcasts or take in all of this stuff. Maybe they haven't even heard of it, or they're thinking that like, I can't compete with some of these KBF or these other regional trails that are going on. It's like, something like this is a great way to kind of dip your toe in, and if nothing else, you can write it off as the fact that it's an event.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you've got stuff lined up for families. So if they show up, like, you're choosing places that are amazing for, the fishing, obviously, and they've got the infrastructure, the theater to do, the celebration at the end and all the awards. But on top of that, like, you've got sort of this festival atmosphere where you mentioned that there's a live music component, there's, kids games and things like that going on that people can do. And the support that you're giving to the local communities. And I think that this is one thing that, and I kind of have a limited sight of this, because I really sort of got into the fishing content game at the pandemic point. So pre-pandemic may have been a different situation, but I feel like I'm assuming that there was an element of that camaraderie and fellowship and everything, that community, that was a little bit lost, because the online kayak fishing circuit and those trails kind of dominated in the initial pandemic, because you could get away with competing, online.
fish whatever water you want, things like that. So that did really, really well. Now the trails are in full swing, and you've got these big events going. But I feel like some of the, I'll give credit like to my co-host Sean the Fisherman. There was a time where he was a tournament director for a local kayak fishing trail, and he really put heart and soul into it. And I think what separated that division of that trail versus any other trail that I knew of is that there really was a sense of community. So after a tournament on any given Saturday, they would then schedule 2 hours to meet at a specific restaurant locally and go and gather there, and people could kind of recap and have a conversation as a community of competitors. And then they would also handle, their awards and everything else, all of their judging. A lot of that kind of selfishly, exactly. I'm sure the judging happened there as well, just to kind of keep things on the in a steady flow. So you have these instances where, you have the ability to do these events. And I think you're doing it the right way and looking at who's your average angler. Well, they're probably married. They may have a family, kids, pets, the whole nine. Let's organize an event where if everybody's going to go, and it's a Friday and a Saturday competing, and then what is it? Is a Second Chance Sunday? Is that the name you've got for it?
It's Side Pot Sunday.
Sunday. That's what it is.
Side Pot tournament. If you want more fishing on Sunday, if you're, because we are Friday and Saturday format, and Sunday is just kind of like, hey, like you're saying, if you're new or a beginner and you just want to show up for the festival, which starts at 2 p.m. on Saturday, anglers stop fishing at 3 p.m. So the festival kicks off a little bit sooner for friends and family and the community.
Yep.
Like you said, music, food trucks, bouncy houses, games, all kinds of just the fun, the boondoggle, the festival part of it.
Oh, yeah.
The camaraderie. It's all going on there. And then even Toyota truck demos, kayak demos. If you're interested in getting a kayak, we're going to have a lot of big names, fishing celebrities and kayak fishing celebrities at the events. You can stop by, see them. And then of course, the awards at 6 p.m.-ish in the theater. Then the after parties after that. Yep. We all have a designated place we go to. It could be like in Wisconsin, it's a pizzeria and bowling alley, and on the Susquehanna, it's a Flying Taco restaurant that's got a rooftop bar overlooking the river that we're renting out the whole rooftop. I mean,
that's
it's
awesome,
just it's just laid out so just hour by hour, just detailed. And then the Side Pot tournament on Sunday is really cool, just because it's $20 and you just win gift cards. It's not like it's
not a serious
high stakes big money. Yeah. So if you're just learning and want to get into it without spending a ton of money, you can always just fish that short. It's only a 6-hour tournament. So even if you were in the, up a little bit too late at the after party and had a little bit too much to drink or whatever, you want to sleep it off and still get on the water. Let's say you only live a few hours away and you're like, hey, might as well fish this short 6-hour
you're there, why
laid back tournament.
Yeah.
Might as well do it. But if you're a beginner, I think that's helpful. If you're a beginner, intermediate, and you don't want to spend the big $250 or $300 on some of the big national tournament trails, and you want to enter ours, you can just enter the 2-man team division for it's $150, but that's split between you and your partner. So $75, and you could be in the whole weekend and all the fun for just $75.
That's
and still be in the game.
Yep.
And then our individual division is $150 also, but that would of course be all on you. So if you really wanted to fish the team and the individual, you could spend as much as $150 plus your $75 is $225. So if you do that, you certainly, if you win and your team does well, which likely if you win, your team will probably do well unless your teammate totally bombs. Someone could still walk away if we start getting 200-300 people in these things with 5 figures, $10,000 or more.
That's insane.
So it's still, I think, appealing to some of those, more serious or, highly competitive anglers that want the bigger payouts. And I think everyone has a chance to win.
Yep.
And if you want, let me know when you want to do it. We can even back up to what it looks like starting on Thursdays with our opening ceremonies too. And then we have a seminar series going on. We could talk about that stuff as well.
Oh, definitely. Let's dive into it and I love the fact that you've got the layout for, the practice up to, in advance. But that Friday portion, like, let's talk about the layout of this because there's something about a Friday, Saturday that makes your
series really unique. Explain to me the reason, but in choosing that, and then obviously that I think will also explain that Side Pot Sunday. Explain to me the decision in the Friday and the Saturday tournament, and also what the reaction has been from people that have heard about it.
Right, this is a great one. So let's talk about that. Okay, right now you see a lot of tournaments out there. They're if they're a big national tournament, they're 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and that's highly competitive. It's a different game, you know what I mean? And we need that in the space of kayak fishing. We need that. And that's what I fish. I mean, that's the Hobie Bass Open Series, the Bassmaster, KBF. That's the stuff I fish, and I love that. But not everybody is wired for that. And once that, and then what the only thing that we kind of sometimes miss at those events, because it is so serious, is there's not a lot of built-in time for that fun and fellowship. And then especially on Sundays when the awards are over and at the awards, there's really no one there except for the people who cash the checks. Yeah. And you would, if you pan the camera around from the live stream, there's 20, 15, 20, 30 people there at max. Sure. And instead of this whole field that has hundreds of people in the tournament, we should all be there cheering on our friends who are getting, awards and did well in the tournament, and then going out and having fun and partying afterwards. Well, we can't because it's Sunday. People have to get back to work. They're back on the road as soon as the tournament ends if they didn't cash a check, and they don't have to be back. And even if they do cash a check, many people still, decide to just leave and not be on the live stream to get their award. Maybe they were 13th or 14th place and they're like, I'm just going to go home. So ending it on Saturday is critical to this whole thing. It's key, because then it gives people all day Sunday to get back, get home. They don't have to take off another vacation day on Monday. And so kind of working backwards. That's why it ended up being a Friday and Saturday. So you would ask, well, why do Friday? Why not just make it a one-day tournament on Saturday? And the other biggest complaint you hear from people, and it happened on the Bassmaster Kayak Series in 2022 when I won the AOI, actually, 3 or 4 of the events were one day, and then some were 2 days. Well, the ones that were one day, I mean, it was frustrating to a lot of the anglers because – and that's why they've gone to 2 day now, because you would drive all the way to some epic fishing location like La Crosse, Wisconsin. And during practice and pre-fishing, you really don't want to hook all your fish and hammer, your fish and beat them up. You need them for the tournament. So you kind of find them and then you let them rest. And then the tournament day, you got 8 hours and you go hard. But then you're like, man, I had all these other spots I'd found out, all these other places I wanted to go and fish and catch fish, and that's it. Tournament's over. Like, there's no more fishing to be had. So we wanted, like, one day wasn't enough. We're going to go that far. And also, like, there's also the conditions too. I mean, you hear it all the time where, this tournament was a 2 day tournament and the conditions were so different from day 1 to day 2 that things turned around. It also gives an opportunity to keep things exciting from most of the field. At least that's what I assume, looking at it as from an outsider. So by having at least the 2 days, conditions can change. You could change your strategy, things like that. Like it's a little bit more of a, but really, it's like a choose your own adventure. Really, it's like, what are you dealt that first day and what are you dealt the second day? Now, there are a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting too. Now, a lot of folks, I think, if you're going to do this kind of thing, there's really no way to have it be the perfect event where you're just going to be able to scoot in and compete for everything without having to facilitate some time off or anything. I think that's just a reality that people need to focus. Like every one of these trail stops is not going to be, I can't believe it, I didn't have to adjust my work schedule at all. But if you're committed to doing this and you're going to take like a personal day or a vacation day on that Friday so that you can get out there. So maybe you leave Thursday night, you get into town, you fish on Friday, you fish on Saturday. And then, like you said, you've got the entire day Sunday to do what it is that you want. It is really a small investment on your part. Plus, how many people out there are losing vacation days every year? I know there are people who try so hard, but like you spend so much time working for a company, you accrue these things. Like if you enjoy doing this, splurge a little bit and use a day or two to make it happen. I think that the benefits are far outweigh the cost as far as the time goes at the workplace. For sure. And I think people that have made that comment, once I explain it, they kind of realize that this format actually will allow you to use less vacation days, really, because, okay, so we are giving you the extra time to fish on the water on Friday. And what's nice is you don't start till 3 p.m. So it's a 3 to 7. So some people could even get there without taking, much vacation or even a half day if they live close by.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the reality is it's just a 5-fish tournament over the 2 days. So God forbid you cannot even make it on Friday. You could still fish all day Saturday and win the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
On just Saturday alone. And you don't need, as we all know, you just need 30 minutes or an hour, the right flurry to win a tournament. And usually that's how they're won.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like it all happened quick. Somebody found the right spot. So the beauty of having it 5 fish for just over the day and a half format, like you said, if you're a beginner or intermediate, or you just make a mistake and you go to the wrong spot on Friday, you're not out of it at all.
Yeah.
You can totally recover, even if you're skunked on Friday and you fished, or even if you didn't fish and you obviously would be at 0 as well.
Yep.
Come back and win the whole thing on Saturday.
Yeah.
And our good friends over at Dark Horse Tackle have sponsored the Dark Horse Tackle. It's called the Day 2 Dark Horse, presented by Dark Horse Tackle.
I love
and what that is the angler who moves out the most places from day 1 to day 2. And so if you're at 0 after day 1, whether you were on the water or not, you have the best odds to win the Day 2 Dark Horse, because that gives you more potential chances to move up. And that's not some chintzy like allure. I mean, this is like a legit, real prize package that they're giving us for that. And we'll figure out exactly what that is, and it'll be posted on the website later. But it's going to be legitimate and something you're going to want to target. So it kind of gives those people that didn't fish Friday a little bit of an advantage to that award and prize. So that's pretty cool. And then for vacation days, the reason why I think this is actually going to be better is our pre-fishing rules allow you to fish 4 days within 2 weeks of the tournament. So if our tournaments start on Friday, just go back 2 Fridays, right? So that gives you 2 full weekends. If you live 3, 4, 5, 6 hours away, you can go on a weekend, like a weekend prior, which is not burning vacation days.
Yeah.
Any of the 2 weekends prior, go fish, pre-fish. Get your 4 days in on the Saturday, Sunday, if you wanted to fish 4 days.
Yep.
And then, which is the maximum. Or, of course, if you have a job that's flexible or vacation days, you could get in on Sunday night, fish Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for your 4 days.
Yep.
Either way you want to do it, it's up to you. We give you the option. But on top of that, you would just have to take off Friday, okay?
Yeah.
Which, to get there, to fish the event, if you want to fish Friday. So you leave on Thursday after work, okay? Tell me if this is true or not, if you agree. Yep. Most people, it's a little easier to take a Friday off of work for vacation than a Monday. Because if a tournament ends on Sunday and you're 8, 9, 10, 12 hours away from home and the results and the awards aren't over till 7 p.m., you're not making it home in time to get sleep and in time to get up for work on Monday. You're taking Monday off.
Yep.
And Monday is the busier work day than a Friday. So I think it's still going to be in the best interest of anyone. And on top of all that, guys, it's just... we only think about it like this. We're just the biggest, 5, 6 biggest, 6 total events, parties in kayak fishing. We're trying to be the festival party that will come to your region. So most people are just fishing 1, 2, 3 of these events, and our AOY format and team of the year only require you to fish 2 of the 5 regular season tournaments, 2 of the 5, and then plus the championships. That's 3 total if you want to be in contention for those awards. So most people are going to fish 1 to 3 of our events, if I had to say. So you're talking, you can't, take off a Friday or, like 3 times, like potentially 1, 2, 3 times. I mean, I think for an event like this, like you said, with all that we have going on and the fun, I think people could probably swing that.
It's manageable. Definitely it is.
Yeah, it's manageable.
And I love the fact that you guys are including in the AOY platform that there is a top team award. I think that's huge. I think bringing in that team element can be huge to grow the sport in a number of different ways. Primarily, I'm thinking if you've got somebody who's just stepping into this and maybe they've got a friend who has introduced it to them and they're like, let's do this as a team, and you'll get to see it all.
Exactly.
But you'll at least, you can at least you can sort of, you have that other person to rely on to say, okay, so how does all this stuff work and everything? Because, I remember the first it was an online tournament, but the first tournament ever, I was like, I got to check in.
virtually. What? I don't even understand. Like none of this stuff was really right in front of my face. So I kind of it was a little bit surprising. But to have somebody to go along with all of that stuff. Okay, lines in are at this time, or we're getting off the water at this time. To at least, if nothing else, to help you with your time management. That can really help. And for novice anglers, just in general, that's a big deal. You put them in a tournament situation, I think time management can blow everything up on them.
You're right.
Yes.
You're right. And that Friday, again, having 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like you might go somewhere and it gets in the rain from the night before, kind of blows it out. And now you're not dead in the water. If you make that mistake on a 1-day tournament, you're done. And if you're a beginner, this just gives you, since it's 5 fish, just an extra 4 hours to catch 5.
Yeah.
And our minimum length is 10 inches, not 12. So we're doing everything possible to help people get their 5. Because you may not catch 30 or 40 fish, but if you catch like some anglers, but if you catch the right 6 or 7, the right 5 out of the 6, 7 you catch, or just 5 you catch, you got a chance. And this helps those anglers, recover from a bad decision. It also creates a new strategy because you can't do a 12-mile river or creek float in 4 hours on a Friday. So now you got to figure out how to utilize Fridays, 4 hours, and it lets you fish on a weekday, which there's going to be less public traffic on the waters, right? Which is kind of nice. And so, you might try a different strategy or go somewhere new on Friday, knowing that, if you didn't have the best pre-fishing or practice, let's gamble somewhere new and use that as a practice day. And guess what? If you catch something that is sizable, it could potentially obviously matter because it's live and in the tournament now. So it's a cool format.
For sure.
And then it kicks off. We've kind of gone backwards, but that actually makes sense to go backwards. You starting with, Sunday being that free day to drive home and have this whole conversation about vacation and how it all works out. Because now that you're leaving on Thursday, you're taking Friday off work or whatever, and you're leaving on Thursday. Well, get there by the opening ceremonies, 4 to 7 p.m. and then of course it goes on even beyond that, which is fellowship and fun at the brewery, or like I said, wherever we are, the pizzeria, bowling alley, whatever restaurant opening ceremonies is. But opening ceremonies is cool. It's got food, again, music, drinks, games, that kind of fun fellowship. There's not some big long rules meeting where we read over all the rules that are already written on the website that you obviously have to know and understand to be able to compete in the events. And it's on you to know them. If you break them, well, they were written right there,
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll have some virtual, YouTube videos you can watch too. But anyway, so it's more just about getting together and having fun on that opening ceremonies at Thursday, and then check in with us. And we have a gift bag. It's $100 worth of product from our sponsors for the first 100 people that sign up. Again, if you are paying $150 for your individual entry and you're getting a bag that's worth $100 of stuff, you're kind of almost, breaking even right there.
Really, you're doing pretty great. If you're one of the first 100, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then there will be a question and answer time there at 7:00 from 7 to 7:30 for new people or anyone who's confused about anything to just in person get their questions answered. And then we will go to just hanging out the rest of that night. And the beauty is, remember, guys, I'm glad we went backwards. This is cool.
Yeah.
Guess what? On Friday, you guys already know you don't have to be on the water till 3. So guess what that means for your everyone's ability or opportunity to fellowship and have fun way late into the night if they choose.
Easily, yeah.
You can do it. And it's not going to hurt your ability to win the tournament at all, affect you, because you don't have to get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning to be on the water at sunrise the next day. You only have to wake up early one time in the event, and then you can sleep in the next day. If you choose, if you're out late, 1 and 2 in the morning, getting wild and crazy, in these cool cities we're going to go to, that's fine. But the other thing on Friday that's optional, totally optional. So if you need to sleep in and rig up and do whatever on Friday and go scout some water, you're still allowed to drive around and scout and set up shuttles for a float trip or whatever you have to do all on Friday. You just can't fish anymore. There's no more practice fishing on Friday. It's just the tournament starts at 3. But we have an optional seminar series for over breakfast starting at like 9:30 or 10.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I'll bring in celebrities and fishing pros and celebrities that will do 45-minute seminars. There's 3 of them at each tour stop. So you've got that to go to, and you can bring your rods and reels and rig up and spool up, after you get done eating and listen to, the seminars. And so the beauty of it is we'll be done with that at 12:30. Then you can have plenty of time to get on the water and run shuttles still and do what you got to do. And then after the 3 to 7 fishing is over, Nothing happens Friday night. Go home, get your sleep, get up early for that early morning you got on Saturday. Go fish your heart out, enjoy it, and then get back for the fun festival. And it's going to be going on back at tournament headquarters on Saturday when you're done fishing. And then, like we said, theater, awards, fun stuff there. Alex Rudd and I will be on stage emceeing, helping keep it light, making everyone laugh. And then again, Saturday night after party, Sunday optional side pod or just get home. But it's a pretty cool. It's been very, very meticulously thought out.
Yeah.
And I promise you, it is. We've thought about everything and tried to do what's best for the majority of people out there. But if you're not, so if you're a little concerned about, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for this or can't compete, and then, like I said, just enter the team division, come for the seminars, meeting the celebrities in the fishing world, the fun and the fellowship, and just that we all need as human beings, like the actual in-person friendships and fellowships where you can become close with a lot of the anglers there. And when you have something going on in your life, you got someone to talk to, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And back with river bass, and that's kind of what, bringing it full circle, what really decided for me to bring it back is that, you know, a guy came up to me and at a fishing expo, and we were we were actually in the hotel in the evening after we got done working the expo, and Dustin Hoy from Raccoon Creek Outfitters and Mark from Loveland Canoe and Kayak were all there hanging out. And this one guy that was one of the pro staff for Dustin at Raccoon Creek, one of his fishing team members, right? That's just the Raccoon Creek Outfitter sells, you know, fishing stuff, kayaks, all that good stuff here in Ohio. And this guy, Reed, said, "Hey man, just want to thank you, Drew, for everything you've done, because every one of us would not be here if it wasn't for you." And I thought he was just like blowing smoke, you know, obviously
you hear it all the time,
quasi, whatever, celebrity in the sports. I thought he was just, you know, blowing, you know, being extra friendly or whatever. And I was like, "Hey, stop, come on, man." And he's like, "What do you mean everyone wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me?" And he said, "No, think about it. You started river bassing. Dustin didn't kayak fish at the time. You're just kind of getting into it."
Yep.
And he said, "This seems cool. I'm going to go fish this." And he fell in love with the sport so much because you started that tournament series and gave us the opportunity, or him that opportunity, that he eventually decided to open up a kayak fishing shop in Ohio. And now every one of us here that's working this expo we're all his pro staff or employees of his shop. None of us would be here if you did not start what you did with river bassing. And that like made my heart just like, I mean, just, I was emotional. I was like, I can't believe that. So that's part of the other reasoning behind all of this. And you can see with that format and how thought out it is.
Yep.
We made sure that's as much of a priority as the fishing is, to have the fellowship and the experience. So anyway, and like you said, the family has other extracurricular events going on for the family, a designated friends and family excursion on Saturday. And we list on the website all the other cool sites and things to do in the area for kids.
That's
and
great.
We go to areas that have other stuff that's very touristy, but not like, you know, overly touristy, trappy, like Disneyland or something like that. I'm talking like cool hikes and things that outdoors people like us would love to go see, you know, sites and, you know, like the sand dunes in Michigan, Whitehall, Michigan, just north. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. That much sand, like, you know, you can ride dude buggies and rent just cool other things to do for the family at every single one of these locations. So hopefully wives and kids get to come as well.
Definitely. I that's one of the elements that I love so much about it, is that it does really kind of include everybody. And, you know, you're right. You know, when you said, you know, how it was pointed out that if it weren't for you, these things wouldn't exist. Like it is amazing when you create something and you build community, because we're lacking that so much these days, more than anything. So when you do create an event or an activity or whatever you want to kind of umbrella term you want to put over it, when you create something that goes on, that brings people together and it gets legs and it kind of starts to evolve a little bit, and you get, you know, people look forward to this gathering regularly. There's something special about that. And the fact that you're doing it, it's funny because like I said, I'm really not a competitive angler, but just hearing you talk about this is really making me think that this might be something I might be interested to do. Maybe even just with a buddy, enter in as a team, go and, you know, have fun for the entire weekend.
Because I'm actually in the middle of planning my travel for next year. And one of the stops, I was Zach from Dark Horse Tackle and Josh as well. We were talking about planning a trip to the Susky. I mean, we might as well make it a stop during the Kayak, Adventure Series.
Yeah, mine as well.
That could be kind of cool.
And also, you're a podcaster, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're going to have, and meet your media. So we're going to have a potential, like a press conference after the tournament, or a short one for the winner, where he's got a table and he's got the backdrop, and you guys are, as the media, asking him some questions and getting some, potentially utilizing some of you guys to actually be the one on stage with them to hold the press conference. Yeah. So you could record it and make it part of your podcast or an entire short little podcast.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we meaning the Kayak Adventure Series are getting more of the scoop than we were able to get on stage, because we're not going to hold people up and sit there and talk to the winner for 15, 20 minutes and ask them all the detailed questions that you guys would typically do if you bring a winner on to one of your podcasts.
Of course.
So it gives you guys a chance to kind of be a part. Hopefully you can have a small media room with some snacks and places where you guys can go and write your stories and do podcasts and stuff like that. So another opportunity for you guys to help us share the the message and the whole Kayak Adventure Series with the public.
And it really is like it's a real collaboration with the series itself and the layout that you've got with all of the different elements that kind of keep it interesting and fresh and bring the community together, but also the fact that you're leaning into so many different platforms for media to draw attention to the sport. Drew, this is absolutely awesome. I'm very, very, very excited about this. What are, we know you mentioned Dark Horse Tackle. What are some of the other sponsors that you're working with?
Oh, wow. We've got a lot of sponsors. I'll actually pull up my website so I can see it here. We've got, so it's headline sponsored by GoPro. And obviously we talked about how important those cameras are and to capturing the whole thing. So my crew, my production team will be out there supporting the top anglers with GoPros that are GoPros that we put on their kayaks. So they don't have to worry about anything. We will have probably one, maybe two, but obviously the angler has a say in where it goes. It's not going to get in your way whatsoever. But, my crew may come over and help ensure it's still running, or it didn't get bumped. It doesn't have fog on the lens or water spots, stuff like that. Whenever you get, catch a fish or taking a break and retying, they might ask, hey, can we come over there and just check it? And how's it looking? But anyway, the GoPro is critical to the whole thing. And then that's why they're the headline sponsor, obviously. And then Real Tree Fishing, Toyota, the Bonus Bucks program. We've got most of these are all set in stone. A couple of them are not quite, but I'll still mention them. They mostly are all set in stone here. But 13 Fishing, Z-Man, Torpedo, X2 batteries, Crescent kayaks, New Canoe, Bonafide kayaks, Innovative Sportsman, that new inflatable that Jeff Little has developed with the Innovative Sportsman folks over there, Trey. Like we've talked about, Dark Horse, Power Pole, Smith Optics, Sunline, that Ashigan, the official brand of smallmouth bass. Ashigan, it's a Josh over there and Chris have done a great job. So he just won that Bassmaster tournament. And Fish It Small is another apparel brand, 17 boy named Charlie, has been great. He's helped us with some stuff, and he's started his own apparel brand. So for kayak fishing, so it's called Fish It Small. You've got AFCO, Cables, Yak Attack, Boondocks, Stolquist, Bending Branches, Catch, Tightline Anchors, Batteries Plus Stores, the Women's Fishing Federation, and Quadlock. And then there's a lot more that are, I can't really say, but that are basically coming on board soon. But the charity we're going to be targeting and raising money for is called PUNT. It's Pediatric Cancer Collaborative.
Oh, I think
we're going to raise money for pediatric cancer throughout the entire series. So every one of the events is headline sponsored. Every tour stop is headline sponsored. For example, the Susquehanna River is, like you said, that one will be, and they all have festival names. We didn't mention that. So it's called the Fiesta on the Susky, our Susquehanna River event. That's headline sponsored by Bonafide Kayaks, for example. And so they will be giving away a kayak at that event, but it's not to the winner. It's a raffle for pediatric cancer. So we'll be raising money for that. And by the way, before we get off, we should just mention all the events and the dates just on audio here people can know when they are. But yeah, there's a lot of partners and more even coming on board that believe in this and what we're doing, because I feel like we are reaching, I think, a good number of people, like more the masses, with our style. So I think that's appealing to a lot of these sponsors.
That's awesome. And I mean, the fact that you're tying in a charity element to it, I think is enormous. And that I think you've got the ability to do something great, to do something that's good in general, to sort of pass it along. Not just a great event, but to put a real a stamp on like helping a good organization out. I think that's huge. I love the fact like raffles are amazing. You know, it's great that the winners of these tournaments are winning a great purse and everything. And, you know, there's some extra stuff that goes along with that. But this way you have the ability to take all of these raffles and do this where, you know, now you show up at the event. It's just like it adds more incentive for folks to be there and to participate, you know?
Yes.
Let's talk about registration.
Absolutely.
When does registration open, or has it opened currently?
The website goes live any moment. Quite frankly, we
really?
published it last night, but it said it takes 48 hours for it to populate around the internet. So maybe when this airs, it will be live at kayakadventureseries.com.
Beautiful.
And you can register there at the event pages. However, they don't open till it all starts in January for registration. January 2024.
Perfect.
I believe the first one. I'm trying to pull it up here. The registration for that first event, which is called Shoalypalooza in Georgia, in Thomaston, Georgia, where we catch the shoal bass. It's a bucket list fish for so many of you guys out there.
Oh yeah.
Is registration will begin on January 16th, and that's early registration. And that's when, if you register it all under early registration, which is pretty much January 16th until April 28th. So it's a long period of time.
Yeah.
But any of that qualifies you for that $100 gift bag.
Oh, that's cool.
That you're going to get from our sponsors. And the cool thing is, if you register late, even up to the opening ceremonies, we'll still let you register for this tournament. So if you don't know about your schedule until the last minute, it doesn't eliminate you. There's no week before deadline or anything like that.
That's cool.
You can still register up to the event. The entry fee goes up a little bit, not much, a little bit. You don't get the gift bag. But at that point, you're probably past the top 100 who have entered anyway. So you weren't going to get a gift bag anyway. But we just want to get as many people registering early as possible, which is why we offer the gift bag and a little bit lower price for early registration, just so we can have a head count and we can start preparing. You know, the communities we work with, the tourism departments, there's a lot of facilities and venues and things we have to get prepared. So that's one reason for that. But anyway, January 16th and every other event will be the exactly a week later. Okay. So, and on the date of the registration, we have a live podcast, a live stream talking about that event, trying to help drum up some registrations even during that live stream. And so, just get on the website, kayakadventureseries.com, and it'll be up here soon. You guys can check it out and register whenever they open. And all the divisions, like I said, there's even a youth, the top youth and the top female are awarded as well.
Yep.
Plus that 2-man team division. And we didn't even talk about the crazy other awards like the bounty bass, where we have, it's probably going to be like a $13,000 fish that we tag out there, and sponsored by 13 Fishing, which is rods and reels. And their slogan is "Make your own luck." So it's kind of like a hole in one, basically. If you catch this one fish we tag that's worth that much money, then you win it all. So
that's amazing.
There's that. There's the Dark Horse Tackle. We talked about that award, the Day 2 Dark Horse. But there's even the micro bag division, which is the
I
5
was going to bring that
fish.
Up. Yes, I
never
love
even brought that up, which is another way to, like, instead of just being frustrated, your day's not going the way you wanted to, and just trunk slam and leave. Hopefully, you wouldn't leave our events anyway, just because we have all the other fun stuff happening.
Sure.
But this gives you a chance to, still in a tournament setting, win by catching the 5 smallest bass, and that they have a minimum of 5 inches. So in theory, your holy grail stringer would be 5 fish at 5 inches would be 25 inches, and that's not easy to do. It's very hard and it's very challenging, but it's a ton of fun. A ton of fun. Bring the ultralight out and trying to get in these little small creeks and backwaters and little places or certain docks that you can find, these little teeny bass.
Yep.
But you're catching a lot of fish the whole time, right?
Oh,
and you're in a tournament. So it's kind of like anytime you're catching fish in a tournament, it lets that heart pound a little bit harder, get a little bit more excitement. So, and it's harder to catch a 5-inch fish than it is an 8, 9, or 10. The same way it's harder to catch a 23 than it is at 16 or 17.
Yes.
It works the opposite way. Their mouths are a little bit more membraney, so it's hard to keep them hooked when they're that small.
Oh, yeah.
They're only that small for so long based on when they spawn. And it's just harder to catch the smaller ones. So it's actually a very fun challenge for those that want to go chase that Z-Man Micro Finesse micro bag division for the 5 smallest. And there's going to be significant, with our payout structure, there's going to be, again, it's significant payouts and cash for that, division. It's not like you just win, oh, here's a bag of baits. No, people are going to pay to enter this event. And there is no separate entry fee for the micro bag. It's all part of your $150 individual entry. So you're in both at the same time. And any fish between awesome. 5 and 9.75 goes to your micro bag stringer and that leaderboard. Mm-hmm. Anything you submit that's 10 inches or more, Tourney X will send it to the main leaderboard for your biggest 5. So that's how awesome. That works. But it's going to be significant. A lot of people will just literally enter the event to target that division, thinking less people are going to focus on it. So if I'm focusing on it the entire day and a half, I can try to get down close to that 25-inch limit. Whereas if somebody else, just zigs in the middle of their Saturday for the last half of the day, they may not be able to compete against you if you're focusing on it. So it's a cool, crazy, fun category that I think people are going to love.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. So just yesterday, and this reminded me because I remember you talking with the guys at the Catch podcast about this, and I thought it was really interesting. And we do something kind of interesting at Jigs and Bigs. So we have a nationwide tournament series, but it's a whole other animal. It's a multi-species scavenger hunt. So we have a list of 22 species.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we love it because it works great for the novice angler that's just trying to dip their toe into competitive fishing. For an angler that's kind of just been doing this for a while and wants to add a little bit more excitement to it or put a little more purpose behind their fishing over this month-long series, it works great there because you find yourself in these odd positions targeting bodies of water that maybe you've never fished before because the species you need are in there. It really causes you to get outside your box. But for the seasoned angler, this is amazing because, and there will be all of this. So if somebody hooks into, a white perch in one of these spots, they can turn that in for points in our tournament. But anyway, I bring this up because yesterday I needed some species that I just couldn't come across. I couldn't come across a crappie. I needed one badly. I needed a brown trout, a brook trout. I needed so many more. And some fish that I just knew I wasn't going to catch unless I changed up my tactics significantly. Catfish, carp, things like that. And I went out yesterday and I was throwing a super micro finesse swim bait. And I caught about 10 fish, the majority of which were largemouth, and they were under that 9.75 mark, all of them. I would have smashed that micro bag. It was unbelievable. And
dude, it's fun. It is. It really is fun.
Yeah, I immediately thought of that. I was like, that is just genius right there. So I'm all in, man. I think I might. You may see me actually do something out of my wheelhouse and enter a tournament just because this sounds awesome and I want to be a part of it. Just hands down. Let's talk about the future for the Kayak Adventure Series. This is the debut, and I think you guys are coming on strong. Let's go through. Do we go through the list of the bodies of water? I know we mentioned the Susky.
No. Yeah, we talked about the Susky. We mentioned this first one here, that Shoalipalooza in Georgia. Yep. So just real quick, I will say them all. The next one we'll go to after Shoalipalooza. Again, if you've never heard of a shoal bass or caught one, you should definitely show up on May 3rd and 4th to Thomaston, Georgia for Shoalipalooza. It's going to be pretty wild. That fish is cool because it gets big, and it's the only place it lives in the world. And it's one of the black bass species. So
really?
Knock it off your bucket list. I've caught a couple over 7 pounds, and they are commonly caught 3 to 6 pounds. I mean,
no kidding.
The reason why it's so common, just little biologist, information here. If you're a fan of bass fishing, is that's the only black bass that, in largemouth, you're trying to really target the females because they're the ones that get big.
Yeah.
The males don't get that big. Same with smallmouth. They don't get as big.
Oh yeah.
And that's called sexual dimorphism is what the term is for biologists. But anyway, shoal bass don't have that. All of them get the same size. So instead of in a tournament, really you're like any Bassmaster or big tournament or even this one, you're really trying to get most
females.
people are just trying to catch female bass. What you're really hoping to get a big one, right? And then really only half the females in the population are big enough to where they would matter, like where they're like big. So really 25% of the fish are the ones that would matter in a tournament to win. And that's what you're trying to target. Well, for shoal bass, it's different because, the males get just as big. So really you got 50% of the population that is big enough to really start to matter for a tournament.
Gotcha.
So it's a cool fish and a cool little fact about them. But, and then the Wild Whitehall is next. That's in Whitehall, Michigan.
Yep.
On June 7th and 8th. All these cool rivers that flow in on the east side of Lake Michigan, and they form these cool lakes, Lake Muskegon. You got White Lake, and there's honestly that one has like 10 or 11 lakes in it. There are these a lot of them are these smaller lakes. Some are medium, smaller size lakes that are really good for kayak fishing, and it's all the free flowing rivers and creeks that feed into those lakes are also in balance. So that's the kind of the river, creek, and then you got the lakes, and then and it's cool. People might be like, that's a lot of bodies of water, a lot of lakes. How do you pre-fish them all? Well, you don't. The same way you don't fish all of Lake Gunnersville when you're practicing. You can't. It's too big.
Yeah, it's too vast.
You can't fish all the Harris chain or the Kissimmee chain in Florida. You can't fish all the lakes when you're practicing. You got to learn how to do good map study and research and how to narrow it down to the focus on the few that you want to be able to actually fish when you're there in person.
Yep.
And that's part of winning a tournament is that pre-tournament research. And so it's, it just gives you having so much water in balance, which by the way, we have all the water that's typically rivers and creeks and lakes that are within an hour of headquarters are in balance for the Kayak Adventure Series.
Yeah.
And all that does is give you a chance as an angler. And everyone loves this opportunity, I'm sure, to be alone in a tournament setting, which is odd these days with how popular fishing is getting in tournaments. It's hard to go in a bass boat tournament without, other people being right on your spot, wanting to fish the same thing. And then there's some tension, there's a little frustration, and you're splitting the fish up. Well, because we have so many river miles and creek miles and lakes and bounds, you could have 200-300 people in these tournaments and you could still find water where you're alone, which everyone dreams of in a tournament. So that's kind of, why we have it like that. But June 7th and 8th, Wild Whitehall in Whitehall, Michigan is going to be awesome. July 12th and 13th is Ozarkana, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Missouri might sound far for some of you guys that are East Coast or whatever, Southeast, but it's not. It's only 3.5 hours from Nashville. To show you how close it is, it's the southeast corner of Missouri.
Yep.
And that's the gateway to the Ozarks, that city.
Yeah.
So you got beautiful Ozark streams and rivers, and north and to the west of that city.
Yep.
Because you're in the Ozark Mountains, and to the south and to the east, it's more your Mississippi River floodplain. The water gets a little dingier, a little bit more spotted bass and largemouth focused there. Which by the way, Michigan's the same way too. It's going to be a complete battle between what's going to win, largemouth or smallmouth.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. You'll see that theme, in several other events because the largemouth up north in Michigan get big there too. And then here in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, they get big too. So it's kind of like, man, I think a lot of people love catching a smallmouth with how hard they fight, but this is about length. So you got to decide how you're going to what's your style. And on Ozarkana in Missouri there, we've got Lake Wapapello, we've got Duck Creek Conservation Area Lake and bounds, we've got Clearwater Lake. There's several lake bodies of water in play too. So, and that Duck Creek Conservation Area is cool because they just flooded this big rectangle. It looks like one of those Florida lakes. They just flooded the field, and it's shallow, and it's got vegetation, and it's got cypress trees. It feels like you're in Louisiana.
Really?
So it's kind of like wild to have an event where you could choose to go frogging, lily pads and catch largemouth, or
and no
go
gators
up and catch clearwater smallmouth. So that's again July 12th and 13th in Missouri, and then August 9th and 10th is the Fiesta on the Susky, which we talked about.
Yep.
Just mainly a big smallmouth party on the Susquehanna River.
Oh yeah,
and that one is just going to be so much fun. No one's ever not had fun on the Susquehanna River. So, and that actually goes into the border of up to the border of New York and even into New York some. So New York waters and bounds on that one as well, on the Chemung River and the North Branch of the Susquehanna, which was voted the river that's the current river of the year for the state of Pennsylvania. It's just an awesome place.
Mm-hmm.
In September 6th and 7th, the Wisconsin River Fest in Sauk Prairie, Wisconsin. That again is a largemouth smallmouth clash, and Lake Wisconsin is the lake that's in play for that. There's another kind of flat body of water part of the river further north that's in play as well. So you got a couple different lake sections, and then the free flowing Wisconsin River, which is just an epic fishery that's really not been exposed on a big national level because Lake Wisconsin is not big enough for these big bass boat tournaments to go to. And even Christine Fisher, when I posted about it on Facebook, she said the Wisconsin River she feels is better than the Susquehanna River. And that is, that's
she's going to hurt feelings
bold,
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Bold statement. And people did post pictures right after that showing 21-inch smallmouth that were as tall as they were long.
Oh, for sure.
Came out of that place. So there's some big ones. And that's going to be a ton of fun. The pizzeria, the bowling alley, the brewery, it's all right on the water there. It's going to be a really cool place. And all these have incredible cool historic theaters too, which you go to the website and check them out on the tournament pages. And then October 4th and 5th is Broodstock. And
I love that.
Our website, I just typed in the actual kayakadventureseries.com and it's pulling up on my internet. So it's live for me right now.
Good.
It's the first time it's pulled up. And so I will say this, it's not live on there, but let's give your listeners some juice here. Broodstock, it says TBD on the website, but I'll just tell you guys now, it's going to be in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And that's in the center of all those other locations. And Bowling Green is a hidden gem for fishing. It's going to be rad. Really, really cool. Because you got Nolan Lake and you got the Green River, Barren River Lake. And you have the Green River, the Barren River, and several lakes in bounds, maybe even a couple others we're going to have in bounds. And that tournament page isn't up yet, but that's where it's going to be. And it's very central to everybody.
Yep.
And we've got a really cool venue where we're going to hold the awards that I can't really get into now. We're finalizing some of the details. It's going to be one of the coolest weekends and festivals and parties you guys have ever been to. So it's going to be fun.
I'm looking at the website right now, Drew, and this looks amazing. I got to tell you, man, I'm so excited for all of these. This just sounds awesome.
I am too, man. I can't wait.
My thing is always this, like the last couple of years for me, it's been, for me, fishing is a lot of like tournament anglers when they're out there and like my co-host Sean is a schooled tournament angler. He's got like 30 years of experience and, he's kind of dipped his foot into that upper echelon of competition and, for a little while. And, he kind of approaches fishing from like more of a mission sort of standpoint. Like I'm going out, I'm catching a limit. Now it's time to cull. And that's what we're going to do. And, he puts his work in. For me, fishing is more about it just being an adventure. And a big part of that is travel. And for the last couple of years, Sean would talk about these trips. And I always kind of felt like as a non-competitive angler, like I'm not going to go and tag along for some of these, because number one, I don't want to be on the water interrupting a tournament or anything like that. It's just not my place. Right. But I will tell you, this is so appealing to me for the travel alone. The getting out there and checking out, the event at the Ozarks. Like I think that's amazing. Ozarkana, I love the names for these. This is very, very cool. Very, very, very cool. Let's talk like the future. Like, where do you want to see Kayak Adventure Series go in, say, like the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. This first year is going to tell a lot, because I can't do this for free. I mean, it still has to be a business, profitable business. And it's hard to make money in this space. It just is because, look at, we've heard, think about, Bassmaster and MLF, even at the highest level, they struggle. That's very public knowledge and information that they're all still wrestling and struggling with being real successful businesses. And then even in the kayak world, there's always been, for Bassmaster, they've even told us like, hey, we need you guys to come to this kayak series or we're not going to keep doing it. Bassmaster can't keep going. We got to be profitable. KBF's been public about saying same things like we need to keep this going. You guys got to attend. And, Hobie, same thing, all of them. They've all had basically times where they've come out and just said, let's keep the momentum. You guys keep showing up and we'll keep doing it. But so we'll see what happens the first year, what kind of attendance we get, what kind of feedback. And then I'm probably going to commit a couple 2 years to it, maybe 3, at least 2, I would think. Because I've already got the whole 2025 schedule.
Oh, you
done
need to be
and all
ahead
of our
of it.
partners.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're way ahead of the game.
That's
but
good.
What I'd love to do is one day, honestly, just kind of be out of running so much of it. The fun part to me is giving away the prizes on stage and seeing people's faces light up and the joy that I bring and the friendships and all that we're able to do through it. That's the fun. If I can not do all this behind the scenes website building and sponsorships and all that stuff, that's contracts and insurance and all that, there's so much that goes into this thing. That's why it's hard to be profitable. People don't see there's a lot of money that has to get spent to do all this. It's not just me.
Yeah,
it's a big team of people that I have to manage too.
Yep.
If I can get rid of doing some of those responsibilities, that would be awesome. So in the very, very future, like you're saying, if one day I could just just show up and I just am on stage, I'm just there doing seminars and kind of being the face of it still, whatever, but making people laugh and talking to them on stage, interviewing them, that's cool. And then not doing so much the behind the scenes, that would be a lot of fun to just
for sure.
Just even fly in and just if someone else could take over that part. So maybe someone wants to buy the whole thing and just keep me on as that, or maybe we bring on people that just kind of handle the other part. Who knows? But
the future's wide open. And I mean, there's a lot that can happen in there. One thing I do want to touch about, Drew, before I forget, is that you offer on your website, some online classes that can help folks. Like I see here, you've got one that's a river bass and secrets, and then tournament strategy, thinking outside the box. Why don't you talk a little bit about those? And if people are interested in any of those that are coming up or something that they want to look into, like some of that stuff as well.
Sure. I love, helping others learn. And the one reason I started those seminars, online virtual seminars, like you said, COVID kind of helped show us that you can do a lot of stuff, virtually. And I've always felt as a tournament angler at the highest level, I have a hard time just giving out all of my secrets.
Oh, of course.
Just for free to the public online, that even people I'm competing against can, obviously get that information and or see locations and spots that I'm fishing if you post all the videos. So I just never liked doing that. And then of course the reason you do that is if you're posting enough constantly, then you're getting either paid by views on YouTube or, from sponsors, whatnot, a little bit more because you're posting all that content. But I don't have time to edit a ton of videos. I got a wife and a couple kids and 3 dogs and everything else going on. So, and jobs with designing boats with Crescent and whatnot. So don't have time to do that. So I thought, well, how can I still kind of monetize this, but at the same time, also save people time and money, like all the time and money it's taken me to learn how to catch fish with my style of fishing that I do.
Yep.
How can it's obviously just thousands upon thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars, of time and money spent over my lifetime. So how can I help save people time and money? Well, I can just offer these virtual seminars, these classes where I can share my screen with them and record the whole thing so they can even have it to watch back for themselves. And they pay $100. They're there. We're here for a couple hours on an online classroom setting, and it's a small setting. Only max it out at about 9 people. So that if you don't think of this question, maybe one of the other folks in the class, does think of it, and they ask it, and you get to learn from it. But I don't want it to be, this big thing where everyone gets to know. I want it to be a little bit exclusive like that. A small class of people I get to know, and you're not just a number. I can actually remember everyone's name, and I follow you still on, Facebook and Instagram, whatever, and I can see and celebrate your success with you. So that's kind of where those came from. So I do offer some of those. I'm going to have it over the winter. I usually do a couple sessions. So I'm going to actually relist. We just finished up some actually in October. I'm going to relist some new dates on there. And we'll get some seminars going for the winter because, hey, what else are we doing over the winter anyway? It's cold. We're not fishing. So might as well learn. And Realtree usually kicks in a $25 gift card to their online store for anyone who enters. So,
that's cool.
So it's like $100, but then you get a $25 gift card. So really spend $75 to learn a bunch. And and hopefully help you catch more and bigger fish. That's the idea.
Yeah, I love that, Drew. I think this is amazing. I think number one, the Kayak Adventure Series alone, I think is amazing. But the fact that you've also got these tools that an angler can use to kind of like maybe get over a hurdle or sort of open up their eyes, because sometimes that's what you need is just that perspective, and it can help a lot. There's value there. There are, and I'm going to tell you guys, as a guy who appreciates value, Drew's courses are affordable AF, as the kids would say. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, man.
I'm telling you, like any angler
Absolutely.
could make this investment and say, okay, this is worth doing. So his website, if you're interested in that stuff, is drewgregory.com. And of course, now online Kayak Adventure Series website is simply kayakadventureseries.com. Check that out. I'm excited for this, Drew. I really, really am. I do want to get back and ask you to go out on one final question, because I ask every guest this question, and primarily Jigs and Bigs is about anglers sharing their experiences and sharing stories. And we all have, wins and losses along the way. So I want 2 stories from you before we wrap up. I want the story that, like, let's say you're at an event, and a non-fishing event. Maybe you're at somebody's wedding, and, somebody that you haven't met before says, oh yeah, hey, you fish, don't you? What's that story that you're going to tell them that's like the first one, your go-to story? Maybe it's something you're the most proud of. Maybe it's a PB situation, a tournament win, obviously in your situation. Maybe it's the AOY. Explain to me the story and sort of the road, how we get there. But on the flip side of that, Drew, and this is what I'm most interested to hear from a multi-AOY winner, I want to know the biggest, like the epic fail when it just all went down the drain. Entertain us.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first one would just be, to try to at least get across to anyone who's kind of new fishing. Like you said, you see somebody at a wedding or a party, that just to get them to understand like how, and I call it the beautiful chaos. Like kayak fishing is a beautiful chaos. Like 100%. When you're out there in a river or a creek, it looks like it's a cluster sometimes when you hook a fish and you're floating into stuff and you can't use your paddle as well because you got a rod and a fish pulling you one direction, and you can kind of one-handed do what you can. It's just kind of, you're hitting rocks, you're getting pushed into limbs and trees, but it's what makes it just so incredibly exciting and just action packed, because it's nonstop. Like, I'm totally ADHD and just spastic, and I need all kinds of different things to kind of be going on to make it more exciting and fun. That you just never know what adventures are going to happen and what things are going to happen. So to get them to kind of see the challenge of it all, like that, and just how much fun that challenge is, even when the beautiful chaos does occur, which it does. And then the cool thing is when you get that fish in and you went through whatever you had to go through, it's like, wow, this just doesn't happen on a boat in a lake. You know what I mean? Like, and again, nothing wrong with lakes and nothing wrong with boats if that's what you prefer. It just doesn't suit my personality, which is why I prefer kayak and rivers and creeks. But with the Kayak Adventure Series, we do allow motors. By the way, we didn't mention that. We allow it all. We want you to choose your own adventure. If you want $20,000 setup and all the live scope and whatever, that's cool. That's totally, we're all about that as well. But we just want to let people choose your own adventure and your style. So we let people portage and wade fish as long as they stay tethered. Portage over natural obstacles, not man-made stuff. But anyway, that's the story I would get across to them, is the wild adventure of kayak fishing, why I fell in love with it. And the other one would be the biggest like epic fail. I mean, there's a few tournaments that, how like if you ever played golf, sometimes you make a par or a bogey on a hole and never once did the ball even leave the ground. It just rolled and it was just ugly. Like totally you're in the woods, but the scorecard never knows. It just says 4 or 5 or whatever it is. The scorecard never knows if it was like this most beautiful played hole and you just got a par, or it was ugly. Well, for fishing, it's the same way, because we're not out there being live streamed like the bass boat guys are.
Oh yeah.
And people just see our results and they don't really know like how close some of the tournaments I have fished, I've been to literally winning it all. And the one that's still kind of haunts me and comes to mind lately is just this Bassmaster Kayak Series championship. I mean, really the last 2 in a row. I've been so close to actually winning.
Yep.
Haven't even been on stage. I was on stage at Texas. I was fourth place a few years ago, but in South Carolina last year. This year, most recently, the one story I'll tell is the winner of the whole event, Russ Snyder, is a good friend of mine.
Yep.
He and I we found the same thing. We fished the same water. We shared it. I was right behind him, and day after day one, I can't remember. I was right up near the top 5. And we're on Lake Chickamauga, and on day 2, I lost 2 gigantic fish. In a time of the year where catching 5 is hard, and I had 4 fish, and after I had 4, I lost 2 big ones on spinner baits of all baits to lose fish on, which never happens. I lost 2 giants. Now I just catch one of those, I may win the whole thing, but 2 of them I definitely win the whole thing, and that just changes like the whole complexion. I really want a big win like that. I've never won a national. I've won 2 AOIs, and even had a chance at the third AOI. 3 years, it would have been 3 years in a row, because in 2021 my daughter was born. I never got a chance to actually fish the Tournament of Champions to try to defend my 2020 AOI for Hobie. I was in second place heading into that championship event. My daughter was born. I was not going to miss her birth.
No,
so
definitely not.
I did, of course, So I didn't go to that. So anyway, it's cool that winning AOIs is definitely like what I would. Obviously, I think I'd rather have that, just because that shows consistency.
Yeah.
But
sure,
man, I think what's missing on my resume from a competitive side is a big national championship win. I was second in the KBF National Championship in 2019 to Mike Elsey. I've been close before with the Bassmaster and tournament champions. I've been in every year as well, and obviously won the AOI, but never won the big championship. So I'm looking for a championship, and those 2 fish on spinnerbaits. Certainly, I still have them on video. I mean, I just. Still haunted by those. So that's the big wrong kind of fail, but that's fishing. It happens.
Yeah. Happens all the time. I mean,
all the time.
It's amazing though. There's so much, obviously from a competitive standpoint, losing that fish has 0 value to the tournament. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I think really, and this sounds bizarre, but for your own, balance of your own, whether it be your mental health or whatever it is, those missed fish, or the fish that broke you off because you forgot to retie, which is something that occurred to me this summer. I lost an absolute tank because of that. Those hits, those negative blows that you constantly, the more you fish, you're going to come into these situations. They kind of, number one, they build a ton of character. And number 2, you leave with that story. And it's also something that you can utilize to drive you to keep going,
Exactly.
Yeah, it is wild. Drew, this was awesome.
Exactly.
I want to thank you so much for being part of this show. There's going to be a fast turnaround this week. Your episode is going to drop on Tuesday. So I need you to do me a favor, if you could. Either text me or DM me on Instagram a picture of you just holding a tank or a couple of tanks. And we'll use that for the artwork for this episode. I'm also going to be doing some posts, and I'll tag you and all that stuff and everything. I may even bring you on as a partner on the Instagram post. So all you have to do is accept that, and it'll pop up on your feed automatically. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I think Kayak Adventure Series has me excited, to see what happens with this. And I love the fact that it's set up the way that it is, that it's very much, community focused, and it truly, this is truly what I'm hoping is going to do what it's intended to do, and that's grow the sport entirely. I think this is amazing. And congratulations on the website launch. And
thanks, man.
Let's have an amazing 2024 season, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait. Hopefully I'll see you at one of these, and we get you in there and
definitely
have some fun with us. I think it'll be a really good time. So
for sure.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and hopefully we'll see you guys at the Kayak Adventure Series next year.
Appreciate you, dude. This is going to be awesome. Thanks so much, Drew. We'll talk soon. All right.
All right. See you.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
I just want to take this moment and thank Sean for utilizing me. It's been a while. It's been a long while.
That's amazing to hear from LiveScope after all this time.
LiveScope was so pissed off at me that I touched its power button and it shot a small robotic Jaguar out at me. I had to fucking fend it off with a pickerel.
A Jaguar?
A jaguar.
You don't say. You don't say. Oh, God. I love this job. Oh, yeah. What a great episode, man. After talking with Drew, I got to tell you, like, I just want to experience the Kayak Adventure Series. I'm not saying like I'm turning a leaf here and I'm going to start tournament angling or anything like that. I still don't think my eggs are all in that basket at all. However, I do think that these stops along the way sound freaking unbelievable. And I love the fact that it's more of an experience, and it's more about that, like Drew said, the fellowship, the camaraderie, the community, all of these things. And wow, what has Bobby Roast Beef and Jigs and Bigs been saying about fishing all the time? It's all about those things, and I love it. I'm here for it. So it could be pretty cool. I'm going to be talking with Drew about doing some other cool stuff. You may see Jigs and Bigs in podcast mode at some of these stops. Who knows what could happen? Very, very excited about this. I'm very, very stoked. Also, love that Dark Horse Tackle is laying in is such a key element as a sponsor. This is very, very cool. So really, really cool stuff going on with the Kayak Adventure Series, and all things from Drew Gregory seem to be awesome. Appreciate him being on the show. This is absolutely very, very amazing. Reminder to all the listeners, your tickets are available for you to purchase as of Veterans Day, Friday. Technically, Saturday is Veterans Day, but as of Friday, we are dropping the link so that you guys can get your tickets for the 200th episode. Remember, proceeds go toward Veterans Inc., which helps a monumental amount of people without having to jump through hoops or having the perfect sort of situation. Like, they provide assistance to vets and folks that are in need. And that's what it's about. I think it's amazing. I'm psyched. We're going to have Christian on to talk about that. But we have an amazing lineup of fun stuff for you guys. Not only that, but we got prizes, some raffles, all kinds of good stuff. I'm so stoked on all of this shit. I don't think there's really a whole lot more that we need to cover here. You got anything you want to throw in here, Sean?
I got two things.
I love it.
We have 2 birthday wishes going out.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, for Meg, whose birthday is somewhere around here.
That's right. Her birthday, I think, is today.
Is it? Happy birthday to Meg.
Yeah.
And then a belated birthday to me.
Oh, that's right, dude.
Yeah. So
Happy birthday.
My balls fell another inch.
And they're only going to keep falling. Eventually, they'll be knee knockers. It'll be like one of those toys at the office that are like...
You mispronounced ankle knockers.
Oh, yeah.
We might already be past the knees, dude. I'm old.
Yeah, that's true. Congrats, man. Congrats on being old. No
Thanks.
shit. Oh, God. My goodness, guys. Well, I think that about wraps up this show. I have something brewing, and I hope, and it's not that I have to take a dump. I have something brewing, and I hope I'm able to make a huge announcement on this show. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. Listening to this show, I don't normally do this. Some of our listeners are well-versed, and they know that on some of our episodes, we drop a little nugget of humor at the end of the show. We call it an Easter egg, an homage to that culture in like the 90s when you would listen to an album. There'd be something at the end that was a little like, ha ha, something like that, or a hidden track. Anything. This is our little, we do this periodically, not on every show, but every once in a while we throw something on there. We had a phone call come in on the hotline, and, you know, with the serious nature of what Sean was talking about earlier, we didn't feel right having it kick off the show. So I want to just give you guys a heads up. When you hear us play the outro music, Shake and Bake, listen for a few more seconds. There's just a little bit of solid gold there for you. Let's go ahead and wrap this sucker up. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure to give us a rating and review over at Apple Podcasts. And also, follow us on Spotify. Our Spotify following numbers are ridiculous. It's bananas to me, the amount of people
that follow us on Spotify and listen on Spotify is insane. So definitely ratings and reviews, they help us in a major way. We appreciate you guys for doing it. If you would like to become a jig head, visit jigsandbigs.com, and that little button that says join the Patreon, click that tab. You'll be good to go. You go over and subscribe. It's $5 a month. It gives you some access to some really fantastic discounts that we love to kind of give our jig heads a little bit extra, something like that. So like if you're a jig head, you get some extra deals from Dark Horse Tackle. You also get some extra deals from eBay Lure Lab. Those are in the Patreon for you. If you want to get in on this, go ahead and subscribe and be a part of it all. Also remember, take a look at all the links that are in our show description for this podcast. This week, we're obviously going to have that GoFundMe for the, unfortunately, the driver of that fatal accident that Sean had witnessed. We're going to post that up there so you can do that. But also all of our other partner links are all right there with the discount codes. So if you forgot what they are, they're written right in that description. Click that link, go and purchase and save yourself some green. Speaking of green, I'm going to go enjoy some green and get trivia prepped. You guys have yourself a great one. Have a wonderful experience out on the water. If you're still out open water fishing, make sure to wear your goddamn PFD. It is for real. And prep. Do the right thing. The rule of 120, even if you're on a big boat, is a big deal. It really is.
Yep.
I just shared something on my on the Jigs and Bigs story today, or maybe it was last night, of a guy stepping off a dock into his boat, and he lost his balance and went up on the front dock and rolled right into the freaking water. Now, of course, I use the Curb Your Enthusiasm music, to be funny and everything, but you could tell from the attire that they were wearing, it was late in the season, and that's
all the leaves were off the trees. Yeah, that was dangerous.
It is very dangerous. So humorous, yeah, absolutely, but very dangerous. So take care of yourselves. Don't be a moron. We would like to think that those people that have unfortunately met an unfortunate end early on the water for these reasons, we like to think that they're not Jigs and Bigs listeners. And we're okay with that, Appreciate you guys. Tag us in your fish pics. You're absolutely amazing. We will see you in 7 days with much more Jigs and Bigs goodness for you. Like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that I took a healthy shit every single day this week, and that is a new record for me. I was on a low for my poop schedule, and I feel like a brand new woman. Thank you. Oh, is this not my doctor's office? Shit.